predictions and they would come true.
Yeah,
as
and you could
well.
also do it in a brain in a vat or the Matrix, but we reject those hypotheses for the exact same reason we reject idealism.
Well, then there's not really anything to argue about anymore.
Right, you're just wrong? Yes. I mean, I understand, but so like, yes, there's no
Well,
evidence.
If you claim that I'm wrong without anything to really back it up, it's
Well,
just...
no, I have tons to back it up. So again, we have lots and lots of evidence that physical stuff can make novel predictions. Physical stuff can show it's not imaginary, because we can say, if physical stuff exists outside of our mind, here is a prediction about the future we can make that our minds cannot accurately predict the future. And so if this comes true, that's good evidence the hypothesis is correct. Is it 100% proof? No, we don't need 100% proof. So we can say, yes, there is a physical world. And idealism makes no novel testable predictions, and so there's no reason to believe in idealism any more than there is to believe in a brain in the vat.
Well, there is a very simple test you can do.
What's that?
Ask yourself, have you ever experienced anything outside
Okay,
your
that's
own
not a test.
consciousness?
So that's not a test. That's not a novel prediction. It's just saying, what have you experienced? So that's
experiment, right?
How is it not an experiment?
okay. So an experiment works like this. You say, I have a hypothesis. Here is the case about the world. If my hypothesis is true, here is something I can predict about the future, which I don't know yet. And if I get that right, that's good evidence of my hypothesis. And it has to be a novel prediction. So I can't, like, I can predict the sun will rise tomorrow. Yeah, we already know that. So that's not a novel prediction. You got to predict things about the world we don't know yet.
So what if I made the prediction that I would never be able to experience anything outside my own consciousness?
Okay, that's not a prediction. So again, a prediction is something that will happen, not something that won't happen.
All right, my prediction is that everything I experience is inside my consciousness.
Okay, that's not... Wait, stop.
If you go saying
Chichu, don't interrupt. Chichu, stop.
Actually, I'm interested in what Chichu is saying.
That's all right. Yeah, but I'm not done yet. So wait, stop. Chichu, stop, or I'm going to kick you. Chichu, stop. So you got to answer what I'm saying first. So what I said was that you didn't give a test. You said what all of your experiences are in your mind or whatever. That's not a prediction about the future. So you haven't given a prediction yet.
Bring up whole things about religion and God and then say, oh, the sun will rise tomorrow.
Okay.
On that note, thank you so much for having me. I'm going to head out because I'm really tired.
Yep.
See you, Dom.
All right, take care, Dom.
See you guys. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Like I said at the beginning, I will not be arguing from anything that I can take out and show you. I will only be arguing from my own direct experience, because that is all I really have.
Right, so that wasn't part of what I said. So we're asking, why should we believe that your experience, your imagination, is an accurate description of reality? The fact that you experience it isn't evidence it's an accurate description of reality. Saying it's the only thing you experience doesn't make it any more evidence.
But I'm a bit confused, because aren't you making the assumption that something exists outside your experience?
No, I made a hypothesis which made predictions which were correct, and based off of that, I have good reason to believe there is things that exist outside of my experience.
And the hypothesis happened inside your experience, the test happened inside your experience, and the result happened inside your experience.
Yep,
So
and that's good evidence. And that's good evidence that it exists outside. So if I have a hypothesis that there is a cup that exists on my shelf, and I say, if I hold a jug of water and I pour it, it will not get on the floor, and it doesn't get on the floor as far as I can tell, that's good evidence there is a cup that exists right there. So novel predictions work just fine. Even if all of my experience is all in my head, I can still use those future predictions to tell me something about the external world. Does it prove it with 100% certainty? No, but it doesn't need to. So yes, I can use my internal hypothesis and my internal experience to indicate external things. This is not contradictory. Hello, Genius. How's it going?
I'm not claiming it to be contradictory.
Okay.
In fact, both things could be true, equally true.
Okay.
I'm just saying there is an alternative to the view that you are presenting that it is equally as provable as yours.
No, you've provided no evidence. I have provided evidence. So the fact, like, do you know what underdetermination is?
What is that?
In science, there's a problem called the problem of underdetermination. It means that all evidence ever presented can always be explained by infinitely many hypotheses. There's always an alternative. But science doesn't care. Like, we don't care what the alternatives are. The one that's supported is the one that can make the future predictions first. If it makes the future predictions first, if it can tell us about reality faster than any other theory, better than any other theory, it wins. It's the one that's the reasonable one to believe, and everything else is stupid. So the fact that you can have an alternative doesn't matter. Like, we can say we're all a brain in a vat or in the matrix, and that can explain all data. But those are stupid because they didn't make any novel predictions. They didn't provide any evidence before we knew it. They only post hoc explained things. So idealism is exactly like the brain in the vat in the matrix, because all it can do is post hoc explain things. It can never actually give us any new information about the world. No novel predictions.
I won't really argue it any further because I feel like we're just going to go in circles here. But my point still stands that no one ever has experienced anything outside their own experience. And so they cannot say, unless they are delusional, that something does exist.
Right. And so I refuted that point thoroughly, completely. So that doesn't matter. So that's irrelevant. So I granted, yes.
You
I only
refuted it by
let me
saying
finish.
it's stupid.
No, I know. So I granted that. I said, yes, all of my experience is in my head. And that doesn't matter because you can use the experience in your head to indicate external things. Like, it's possible that there's just consciousness. It's possible we're a brain in the vat. It's possible we're in the matrix. The best hypothesis is the one that can make predictions and tell us about the future. Which one does that? Materialism. Do the others do that? Nope. So they lose. So your evidence only indicates the one that can actually make predictions, which is materialism. So none of your evidence, which I accept, indicates your hypothesis that there is only consciousness. That's just something you've made up based on nothing. So it's like I used this example
to me that still seems like a more rational conclusion.
Okay, so let me break an analogy to you. So, like, we only see other galaxies through telescopes. We can't see them through other things. We can't see them with the naked eye. We only see them through telescopes. What you're saying would be as rational as saying, well, therefore other galaxies only exist in the telescopes. I mean, that's clearly dumb. Like, obviously, our means of knowing things tell us nothing about the ontology of the things we're seeing. So the fact that we can only see galaxies through telescopes is completely irrelevant. Doesn't matter. The fact that we can only see it through something is an epistemic means, which means it's completely irrelevant to the ontology. You don't get to use that as an argument of, oh, I see galaxies through telescopes, therefore the galaxies exist only in telescopes.
But that's not what I'm saying.
How is that different from what you're saying? Because it seems like you're saying that we only experience things through our consciousness, therefore consciousness is fundamental, or everything is made of consciousness.
All I'm saying is I've never experienced anything outside my own experience.
Right. I've never experienced a galaxy without a telescope.
With that analogy, though, the telescope exists within my experience. The galaxy exists within my experience.
That's a false analogy. So the analogy is just your structure of your argument is there's an object that I see, and I can only see it through consciousness. Therefore, is it made of consciousness? I assume that's what your conclusion is that consciousness is fundamental. So if I can only see something through consciousness, then consciousness must be fundamental. That seems to be your argument. Is that close?
Yeah, that's close.
Okay, so I can only see galaxies through telescopes, therefore it should be made of telescopes. That's the exact same structure of the argument, and we can demonstrate that that is false. So the problem here is the structure of your argument is fallacious. Like, it doesn't matter if outside of the argument, if there is a telescope, oh, we also see telescopes. It doesn't matter, because the point here isn't about the telescopes. The point here is about the structure of your argument. The structure of your argument is there is an object, I can only see it, object X, I can only see it through Y, therefore X is made of Y. And we can prove that false because we can say, oh, look, there's a galaxy, I can only see it through a telescope, therefore the galaxy must be made of a telescope. Obviously false. So, does that make sense?
I mean, I see what you're saying. I'm curious. If you were to argue what I'm saying, how would you argue that?
I think your argument is that we can only experience things through consciousness, so consciousness is more fundamental or more likely to be more fundamental than anything we are experiencing, or something like that.
Right. And how would you argue that or prove that? Or
I wouldn't. I would say that's a ridiculous argument because I would think that for us to be able to experience something, something must have produced our consciousness. It's not, I wouldn't say it's fundamental. I'd say it must be a composite of other things. Therefore, the fact that we're experiencing other things means that we're probably not fundamental. Like, so in order to show that consciousness itself was fundamental, if I was trying to prove that was true, I would probably try to make some kind of novel prediction about wait, Guru, wait, hold up. So I would say if I was trying to prove consciousness was fundamental, what I would do is I would make predictions about future discoveries we would make related to consciousness and how, like, we can maintain memories or things without brains, or we could transfer.
What are you saying right now, bro?
Dude, wait your turn. So, like I was saying, if I'm trying to prove consciousness is fundamental, what I would do is I'd try to make an experiment to show that you can have consciousness without brains, you can transfer it to other people, you can survive death. Those are the ways I'd try to prove it. Argumentation is completely worthless here. You need novel predictions.
all right. Well, I do not. Yeah.
Hey, Froppy.
Yeah.
One thing to do with this is just let it rest and think about it after a while. Do you know what I mean?
Like, you could say that's a good argument. I can't think of a response now, but I can come back later. Is that kind of a thing?
Because a lot of topics in philosophy can be difficult to wrap your head around. It sort of takes time for you to fully comprehend them. And so it's good to sit for and then come back to it again at another time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was also why I asked how he would like argue for it, so I had some kind of structure to go by.
By the way, can I ask how's my mic sounding?
Sounds fine. I think your older one sounded better. I think this one sounds a little more muffled.
Yes, because I'm using my phone this time.
Ah, gotcha.
Because I
have a couple of questions for Froppy. So Froppy, I mean, I just want to understand your position is that, so there's a tree outside my place right now. And if I don't look at that tree, are you saying that that tree doesn't exist external to my consciousness?
No, I'm saying that you would have no proof in your own experience that it still exists.
So what if I had a friend who I asked to look outside the window, and that friend tells me that, yeah, he does see a tree? Wouldn't that be reasonable enough to then think?
Then what you would experience is a voice, and it is giving you information, which is happening within your consciousness.
But what does it say about the tree itself?
I think he's saying that tells us nothing about the tree itself.
It is just another thought that happens.
So I'm not clear. Does the tree exist or not, external to your consciousness?
My point is that the question itself is moot or flawed. Whether it exists or not only exists as a thought for you. And you can decide as a thought, yes, it exists, or no, it doesn't exist. But either way, all you have is your own experience.
So is it that there is no distinction between there is something external to your consciousness? I think that's what the whole point is. That everything is just your consciousness in our reality.
Yeah. Can you identify where is the external? How do you identify the external if all the interpretation and sense experience data is manifesting inside one's mind?
Well, we could test it, right? One way I could test whether or not the tree exists without my perceiving it would be I close my eyes, and if I bump into it, that means it existed even though I wasn't perceiving it.
But all that proves is that, so what happens is that the experience of bumping into something happens.
Well,
But again, that's just another thought.
it's not. It's evidence.
When you
get a
so
certainty,
yeah,
get a certainty. It doesn't get to certainty, but it would count as evidence that. And I think that most people learn how to make the world around them exactly this way, right? And
yes,
called object permanence. It's called object permanence. Things exist whether we are perceiving them or not. That's something that children learn at a particular age. I think it's like
yes, and I'm not saying that the tree disappears or stops existing. I'm saying that the speculation of whether it's there or not is just another thought, and the question itself becomes moot.
But if I'm perceiving
evidence
about it, it's not existing.
So another way we could look
well,
at this is...
Mind if I jump in here? So I think his argument is that the only way we get evidence is through our consciousness. And so if we don't have consciousness experience of something, we don't have evidence of it. And so we can't know one way or the other if we're not looking at it, kind of a thing. And so I think he's just saying, because we don't have absolute certainty or a way to know of something outside of our consciousness, we can't say that there is real evidence there, that it exists there. He's just saying we can't say one way or the other. So it's, all we have is consciousness epistemically. And so we can't make claims about ontology. So I think he's making a claim about knowledge in that. Like Froppy, what would you claim would be evidence that something existed outside of our consciousness? How would you prove my hypothesis? Like you asked me.
I genuinely cannot think of a way.
Just accept the fact that the world is not just your head, and your senses, even they don't even give you enough information about what the world is. So just accept it.
So like, what if for example, we had a hypothesis that your consciousness is made of matter, and that if I take this electrode and stick it in your brain, and shock it, it will cause certain things in your consciousness. Like I can make your consciousness do things that you have no control over. Does that seem to indicate, like, obviously this is all happening in your consciousness. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make your consciousness see red right now. And then I press a button and you see red. I'm going to make your consciousness see blue, and I press a button and your consciousness sees blue. Now all of this is happening in your consciousness, but don't you think that would be good evidence that physical stuff is there controlling your consciousness? It wouldn't be proof, but it would be good evidence.
Yes, but at the same time, that change in color is still only a thought. I like when I'm contemplating all this, I like to put it up against a dream, because in a dream, the houses are literally inside your head. You're walking inside a body that's inside your head. Everything in a dream is made of consciousness, yet it looks real, it feels real. You can pick stuff up, you can throw it, you can make predictions. Now you get hit by a car and it starts bleeding. What is that car made of? What is the blood made of? All of it is only happening inside your mind.
Continue this for 5 more minutes because it's deviating away from like the main topic of the discussion.
Yeah. All right, that's fair.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
I mean, I just want to tell you something I have read about thoughts. Like, someone called Proper said that the reason we developed the ability to abstract and have thoughts is so that our stupid ideas could die instead of us. So, yeah. So just think of it that way. You are an entity that is trying to survive, and you're living in a world. That's why you have thoughts, because they are from this world. Yeah,
I will finish off. Sorry for cutting you off, but I will finish off by saying that the only reason I choose to believe this as reality is because it makes me feel better.
That's fair. Like
Also,
I'm fine. I'm
also
fine
in the
with that.
dream, you cannot rewind time.
Yes, you can.
Reality, you
Lies.
cannot rewind time.
Yes, you can.
Both you can do so in both reality and in dreams. So in physics, you can actually rewind time thanks to black holes.
Yeah, I mean, if you're hit by a car in the real, you cannot be unhit by a car.
It's
But
lies.
if you're hit by a car in your dream, you can rewind time and not being hit by the car.
Right. Okay. But just for the sake of argument, that rewinding would still be happening in a linear forward time.
Nope. That's not how physics works. So
in a dream.
Oh yeah, in a dream. Yeah, in a dream for sure.
Yeah.
But in physics, you can actually rewind time and you can actually undo the car hitting thing. That is actually a possibility.
Really?
In physics. Yep. So like,
is it all right if I ask? I'm just interested
yes.
in that because
So
time travel has been.
PBS Space-Time has done a really great thing on this of watching time and how it impacts on black holes and how time. They do these really awesome graphs, these time graphs of how light moves and what things are within your time cone and what you can interact with, and how with certain interactions between black holes can actually cause time to reverse for certain particles. It's very crazy.
Yeah, because I thought the only way reverse time travel would work is if we could somehow have negative energy.
No, because time is a physical field. It's a physical thing. So if you just bend it enough, you can reverse space-time.
Right.
So that's actually one of the theories. Is Sean Carroll's theory is that the Big Bang before the Big Bang is a reversal of time. So time is just going in the opposite direction before the Big Bang.
Yeah, I toyed with that idea when I was about 10. It's a really neat idea. I kind of like the idea that time itself just kind of loops back on itself. So it's I don't know. It's because the idea is right. There's negative matter and there's positive matter. At the beginning of the Big Bang, a lot of negative came out and a lot of positive came out, and they should have canceled each other.
You mean matter and
but
antimatter?
Somehow, yeah, antimatter. And they should have canceled each other somehow, but somehow there's more matter than there was antimatter. So my idea is that the antimatter has backwards time and traveled the opposite direction.
That's not actually a bad theory. I like that.
Yeah. And so eventually both sides will loop back on itself when matter and antimatter. And then they will become the antimatter and matter. They will kind of reverse roles and go the other way around.
Okay.
Well, I have a little bell. I have a bell that rings every time I hear the word actually used. And when you say physics, actually, in physics, is actually time goes backwards. Do you mean in physics with its mathematical description confirms that it actually goes backwards? How are you using the word actually?
I mean, literally, like physics describes the way reality actually is, like what it's made of. It's ontology. And so in the ontology of reality, time can go in the opposite direction. It can be reversed.
Yeah. I just have a thing about actuality. I believe, using the word actual, because people keep asking about actually, they're asking for a fundament that's universal, from which everything derives. And that's what I think is actuality.
What?
It's almost like saying everything that exists. It's a difference. In order to exist, something must occur. So I say the occurrence is the fundament.
No, not necessarily.
Every diverse particular that exists, it has to occur.
No.
Because non-occurrence is nothing.
No.
This is a Thomistic redefinition of the term actual.
Well, I mean, there can be multiple things that exist and nothing occur. They can just be eternally past and future. There's just these two objects and they're just completely stationary and they never do anything. So you don't.
Right.
I don't know what you mean by occur here.
Well, I mean, things that don't occur. Can you attribute cause to something that which does not occur?
Cause? Like things can exist without being caused. Things can exist without occurring.
I agree with you. I think things exist by the virtue of their occurrence. That's the fundament. You can't go past that.
So a brute fact is a fact that exists with it never occurred and it was never caused.
A brute fact occurred was never caused.
Yeah, it didn't occur. It was never caused. It's just always been there. It's always been the case. It's never changed. No changing.
Right.
What
Abstract
things
objects
That's what
exist and they don't occur.
what things exist without being caused? What
I mean,
is the thing that
necessary
exists?
things, brute facts.
Necessary thing, brute
There's-
facts.
Don't some quantum particles exist
Abstract-
without a cause?
abstract
Well,
objects.
no. So the quantum particles occur. So the quantum particles do
Mathematical.
occur. They are
Right, but
they're-
I think I don't know. I think I read somewhere that the consequence can happen before the reason in the quantum realm.
Maybe
Prior-
that might be in reference to the cause thing. Like they can happen uncaused, but they would still have the occur thing. So I was just talking about things that could both be uncaused and not occur. So those would only be necessary things, and brute facts would, I think, be the only things that could fit that definition.
Well, we don't experience cause. Cause is attributed descriptions of that which occurs. The only thing that's actual is that which occurs. It's actually effect. We perceive effect, and then we attribute cause.
Abstract
I've never been
objects.
able to
Abstract
understand
objects.
feminism.
Abstract objects, for example, they are actual. They exist, but they don't stand in causal relations. So, according to your definition, they don't occur, but they still exist.
No, they occur. They do occur as sentient constructs.
Abstract objects occur. What?
As sentient constructs.
I think this is getting way too off topic. So
I'm sorry.
You guys deviated. So let's go back to God.
Yeah.
Anyone here got?
It's
some
the
argument for God?
question of things that could exist without cause is a question about God. He's the thing that exists without cause. So that's why I wanted to know, what are those things you think exist without cause?
When they define God as independent, I believe that God cannot exist unless he occurs. So that's a flawed. It's. I don't believe God exists.
yeah, that rationality doesn't make any sense. There has to be something which never occurred and has to exist. Reality could not have occurred from nothing, because what you're saying is something came from nothing. If you're saying for something to exist it must have occurred, you're saying something must have come from nothing, which makes no sense. There must have been something that exists.
The regression ends in occurrence.
No, occurrence can't be the end of the regression. Occurrence is a something from nothing. There cannot be a something from nothing. So occurrence can't be the end of the regression. So I think that naturalistic pantheism is the end of the regression, where there's just a natural law of reality, and that's the foundation of all reality. It's just some part of nature.
I just say fundamental physical substance.
Same thing as naturalistic pantheism. Just call it naturalistic pantheism because it's sexier.
I think Poppy finds it.
Disagree with the marketing there.
So I want to say that I think Graham Hoppe defines it as the initial natural state of the universe, right?
Right.
Yeah, but that's boring.
It is boring. We can call it naturalistic Arianus.
Is that? I thought was.
I'm sorry. Was there the answer to things that
Wait,
exist
what?
without being
Yes,
caused?
yes, Luke. So there, all of the different possibilities of what could exist without being caused are like theism, deism, pantheism, panentheism. My preferred version is naturalistic pantheism, which is a fundamental law of nature, like a quantum field that was eternal, never created, has always existed, kind of like how you think God does outside of space and time.
So naturalistic pantheism is something that exists
Yep.
today and
yes.
doesn't have a cause.
Yep.
Okay. And I think we already talked about that. How is it different than God?
Doesn't have a consciousness, doesn't have a mind, no intentionality, didn't create Jesus, no supernatural raising from the dead.
Mind.
Yep.
How do you know he doesn't?
That's
naturalistic
the definition.
Thing.
The definition of naturalistic pantheism is just eternal, all-powerful nature. So no consciousness. It doesn't have the mind parts of the God.
So, Bill, I think one way to look at it would be a theist would say that God is the one who created this naturalistic pantheism. So there's two ontologies there. One is the
Phil, who are you talking?
nature.
That Luke was the guy just talking. Bill was.
Oh, sorry, my bad. So
Bill was the occurrence guy.
Yeah, Bill was the occurrence guy.
Sorry, yeah. So think about it like there is this contingent universe, right? That God created. So that's God plus nature, and then there is what Tom is suggesting is just nature. So it's a simpler theory.
Yeah, you'd have to show.
How do you know that this nature doesn't have a mind?
Well, you'd need to show that a mind is necessary.
Right. So like, how do you? There's better evidence for naturalistic pantheism than there is for God. So that's how we know it doesn't have a mind. It's because there's better evidence it's true than that there's God's true.
So let me ask
again.
A question.
How do you know what is the evidence that it doesn't have a mind? That's the question.
So you have to stop pretending that your question is cogent.
It indicates an absence of volition. So
can I?
Internally determined. There's no mind or brain that's operating.
How do you test?
Wait, so the evidence is
what does it mean not having a mind?
Let me jump in. Hold up. So the answer is that there's no evidence brains exist outside of space-time. There is evidence that quantum fields exist outside of space-time. So we have good reason to believe that there's a quantum field like naturalistic pantheism that existed before the universe. We have no evidence a mind existed before the universe, because that would be as dumb as saying that there was a non-spatial, non-temporal pineapple.
Again, you're saying because I don't know if there is a mind, therefore I say there is not a mind.
No. Hold up.
Let me address that.
Wait, give me 1 second first. So we have evidence quantum fields can exist outside of space-time. We have no evidence minds can, therefore only a dumbass would think minds can exist outside of space-time, and a reasonable person would think quantum fields can exist outside of space-time.
We have no evidence that mind can live or exist outside of space-time, okay? That's the argument for why you think naturalistic pantheism isn't a mind. It's because you don't have evidence that a mind can exist outside of space-time. Wait.
Yes.
Allow me to finish the thought here.
Yep.
So this evidence, how do you test it?
How do we it's only reasonable to believe something if we have evidence. If we don't have evidence, that makes it unreasonable. So it would be equally as unreasonable to think the universe was created by a magical pineapple as to think it was created by a magical mind. So the evidence that we can conclude it's not a mind is the same evidence we can conclude it's not a pineapple, is that there's no evidence that either of those things can actually exist outside of space-time.
You're so dumb, Tom. It's a pineapple. Bottom of the little sponge inside of it, and he works at Krabby Crab Cakes.
I think I want to throw some more light on this. So Luke, one way to think of it would be, does this initial thing have legs? Can you disprove that it has legs? This initial point of nature? That's the similar question you're asking. So,
okay, how do you know if the thing that is natural pantheism has legs? How do you test it if it has legs? The answer is that's your question. That's right, philosopher?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Right. So the legs have a purpose. Like you use them to walk. That's what legs are. The word legs have meaning behind it. So it's supposed to be walking on something. That's what legs are used for. So you need a floor. Do you have a floor in naturalistic pantheism?
Well, you could have legs in space. Like there are astronauts who have legs, but they're not standing on anything.
Yeah. You understand that if there is not a floor, I don't know what there is in naturalistic pantheism.
Well, no. Your argument was that legs. The reason we have legs is to walk. But you don't need to people can have legs and not walk. Like you have legs without walking all the time. So God, wait, hold up. So God could give himself legs and not use them to walk. Like you can have legs and not walk. So your argument makes no sense.
The purpose of the legs, the word legs, is describing things that allows you to walk.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. So again, if we're asking, does the creator of the universe have legs? It doesn't matter if he uses them to walk or not. He could have legs regardless of whether or not he wants to walk. So you saying the purpose of legs is completely irrelevant to whether or not the creator of the universe has legs.
God said he was going to show Moses his ass, so I'm assuming there was a reason for having an ass.
I'm sorry, they have to occur.
Also, just out of curiosity, what would a deity need legs for?
Wait,
or an ass.
Philo is asking the question. You guys are piling onto him, and I'm having trouble understanding what is the information that he was trying to reach here.
Well, the conclusion is I was trying to show how absurd your position is, because you can slap on any property on this initial thing, right? On this naturalistic pantheism, like a mind, you can slap on legs or eyes or whatnot, right? But we don't need to posit those because there is no necessity. It's much more complex to add a mind when we don't need to add a mind. We can explain everything without adding a mind. So it's unnecessary to add a mind.
I understand. Okay, so the argument that you're proposing here, we don't need a mind for it to be able to exist.
Exactly. We're undercutting your claim that a mind is necessary as to being the first cause when it could be a non-mind.
Yes. And the
Did you just sneeze?
Yeah, I sneezed. That was me.
Okay.
Maybe God needs, but he said legs couldn't exist in space. But what about midgets? Could midgets exist in space?
Oh my gosh.
I think Elon needs to put midgets in space.
Come on.
So Luke, let me just close out my argument. Luke, what I'm saying is,
because they're making fun of you here.
Yeah, no, I know. So
I'm just having.
So to close the argument, it's unreasonable to think something exists without evidence. We should only believe things for which we have evidence. So positing something like a mind or legs or eyes, it doesn't help our case. It doesn't help us explain anything. And not to say that it doesn't have any evidence.
Again, you have evidence for a mind.
No,
the purpose of your being here. You don't have evidence for legs. You don't have evidence for.
Can I ask a question?
But you have evidence for other things like mind.
No,
so that's why you say we need evidence for those.
No, you don't.
What is the evidence for a mind outside of space-time? What is the evidence?
You are the evidence. You existing. The
evidence that I exist is proof that there is a physical substance outside of space-time that caused the emergence of it. I could just use the same argument for physicalism.
I am actually.
Thanks, Jerry.
What?
Appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. You guys here say what?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Elon cut you off.
There's a mind that's evidence.
My depression is cured thanks to
TJump.
Sugar
He
Daddy
has never
websites.
seen me. I am a disembodied mind.
I have seen Brenda, so that's a lie. But it's true. She is a disembodied mind.
Her body is the internet.
He also can't account because a conscious mind entails that it is a processional entity. Like if it has thoughts and those thoughts are sequential in their form, like then
but wait,
how can that processional entity exists outside of
did
space-time?
Luke, did you explain? So you said that us experiencing.
Luke is not here. He must have left.
Oh.
I want to make something cool. I wasn't trying to make fun of him.
That wasn't cool, guys. That wasn't cool at all. Being kicked out of conversation for nothing, no reason, no warning. It's not cool at all.
I didn't.
I want to continue being with you guys. I don't like this kind of thing. I don't know who kicked me out.
Yeah, I didn't kick you.
Leave. Yeah, I hope it wasn't you, TJump.
Well, it could have been it could have been a glitch. So yeah, I didn't kick you. Glitches
Why would we let
do
you
happen.
in again, right? Just
Yeah,
think about it. Like,
it's
why
true.
would we let you
So
again in?
so Luke, you said that our minds are evidence that there is a creator mind.
So we not our minds, yourself, the complexity of human beings and stuff like that. You know, like the watchmaker. Argument? Yeah.
Okay, so the
so
complexity of life, you think, is evidence of a designer.
Basically, what I want to I don't want to get into why there are arguments why there is a mind. That this naturalistic pantheism thing that you call has a mind for reasons. Reasons are the watchmaker argument, and those are arguments that can be presented by
yeah, but we've proven all those false. We've proven they're all false.
Philosophers outside of our conversation that we have together. These things are arguments for the existence of mind and the absence of legs or
No. So all of those are not. They're all failed arguments. Like the consensus in philosophy is they're garbage. The consensus in physics is they're garbage. So those aren't arguments for anything. They're all just garbage. They're just.
They are still arguments. You disagree with
them. Oh yeah,
them.
Yeah. They're definitely
they're not valid arguments, but they are still arguments for.
They're not sound. So yes, that means they're not evidence. So wait. So I agree. Wait, one second. So wait. 1 second. So you wait for a second. So I understand their arguments, but they're arguments that are not evidence. So you can make an argument, but the argument doesn't count as evidence unless it indicates something with some probability makes it more likely to be true than false. Those arguments don't. They don't add up to anything. So those aren't evidence it's for anyone, for the consensus in physics, for the consensus in philosophy. Evidence isn't an opinion.
For you,
no.
Again, arguments.
Evidence isn't an opinion. There's no for you. Evidence is objective. Evidence is either true or false. You don't get a for you. It's either it's a fact it is or it's a fact it's not, and it's a fact it's not.
You can be wrong.
Sure.
How would you know
evidence
if your position is the incorrect one?
By other positions presenting things that can differentiate themselves from imagination. Evidence.
Yeah, Tom knows when he's wrong when I tell him he's wrong.
Brenda, have you PayPal'd me yet? Like, why aren't you a mod yet?
Tom was once wrong, but
it almost seems to me that Luke is saying that you don't have 100% certainty, correct?
No, it's more like you don't know why you say this naturalistic pantheism doesn't have a mind. You say what has been presented to me has reason to believe that this naturalistic pantheism has a mind doesn't apply or doesn't work or is not valid anymore.
No. So that's
you don't say why he doesn't have a mind. You just disprove.
Wait, do you think do rocks have a mind?
Given to you.
Do rocks have a mind?
No, I don't think they do.
Why? What evidence do you have that rocks don't have a mind?
Well, that's a good question. For me, a mind is the ability. You need a mind to be able to make a choice, and a rock cannot make a choice. He's not able to choose if he wants to move or do something besides being.
Could you be wrong about that?
Could you be wrong about that? Could you be wrong about that?
Yes.
Okay, so does that mean that rocks could have minds and you shouldn't say that anymore? Like you should never say rocks don't have minds anymore because you could be wrong.
No, I could design a test to make sure that rocks do not have mind, and if this test fails, then I would say, rocks do have mind. You understand?
What test could you?
Rocks helped build the ark in Noah.
Wait, what tests could you use to show that rocks aren't conscious?
So just off the top of my mind, it's not something that I thought of before, but I can think of a test right now where I put a rock right in front of me and wait for it to move.
Well, maybe it just chose not to move.
Yeah. Right. What?
Maybe rocks
chooses not to move.
Or maybe rocks move very slowly. They choose to move and they can only move 1 centimeter per billion years.
Yeah. So this this definition of a rock that has a mind but moves for a billion year, 1 centimeter or 1 millimeters or 1 nanometers for each billion years is not. I would have to use another thing that describe a rock than the ability to choose to move. You understand?
Okay, so let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. So imagine a rock who has a consciousness, but it can't physically move any of its parts. So it can make decisions. It has a mind, but it can't move any of its parts. Then what are you going to do?
So how do you know he made the decision?
That's what I'm asking you. So how would you know?
Again, you are talking about something that do not exist today. Is not the case. So if you have a rock today,
wait. How do you know it's not the case? You're saying it's not the case, but you can't demonstrate it. How do you demonstrate it's not the case that there's a rock that has a mind that can't move? Demonstrate it.
By putting the rock in front of me and waiting for it to move.
Wait, so again, so I asked, how can there be a rock? How can you say that there is not a rock who has consciousness but can't move? So it can't move. You'll never see it move, but it still has consciousness. How do you show that doesn't exist?
So the consciousness part is linked with the move part. If you cannot move, you don't have consciousness.
So you think people who are
paraplegic,
paraplegic, don't have a mind?
Debbie Shivo.
Does that answer your question?
No, it doesn't.
No.
So because there are people who can't move but still have a mind. There are people who are completely paralyzed and have a mind.
Yes.
So how do you know there is a rock?
They can do stuff. Those people can move their eyelids or
nope, they can't move anything. They cannot move any muscles. They cannot move. They cannot move any muscles at all. They're literally completely paralyzed. They cannot move anything.
There are people who are in a coma.
So they have the ability to wake up from this limbo.
How do you show that? Because they can't move their eyes.
Yes, you can. Well, you have history to tell you that they can wake up from this state.
So maybe the rocks will. So maybe the rocks will wake up.
Wait,
after
I'm sorry,
a few billion years.
Philo. The person who is how do you say that?
In a coma?
In a coma?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comatose.
The person comatose. Yeah, comatose person is able to wake up because we have tested it. We have put this person who is still living, I guess the heart is still pumping and stuff like that is still happening in this body, and this body moved after he was in the coma, right? So that's how we knew there is still how did we call the thing?
Consciousness?
Consciousness in those
bodies. Okay, so imagine we've never seen a comatose person before, and there's a person who is in a coma in front of us. How would you know they're still conscious?
You wait.
The question is, what have you done for me lately?
So
you wait.
So hang on. So what if the rocks will wake up and move after 100 billion years? So will you wait 100 billion years? Maybe that's a possibility, right?
Up till then, until a billion years in the future, you will be able to say that it doesn't have consciousness.
Okay, but until then you couldn't. Until then you can't say that. You can't say rocks don't have consciousness until we wait a billion years.
But I got to know.
Yes, you can.
So
you cannot say now that rocks don't have consciousness. You can't say that.
We are able to say that if the work were to be able, if you are able to prove that the work will move in the billion years, that's a different story. But if you are not able to prove that the work will move in a billion years, right now, we are able to say in English, this rock doesn't have what we call consciousness.
Oh, so if we have lots and lots of evidence that no examples were conscious before, then someone who claims it was conscious would then need to provide evidence that it is conscious before it was reasonable. Is that what you're saying?
If we have no evidence, okay, yeah, if it didn't move, we didn't make a choice, yeah.
Oh, like quantum fields.
The rock. What about quantum fields?
They're exactly like rocks. We have no evidence they're conscious, and if someone else wanted to say they're conscious, they would have to provide evidence for that. Until they did, we could say, yeah, no, they're not conscious, just like we can say rocks aren't conscious.
Yes.
That's naturalistic pantheism.
I have an interesting...
I'm sorry. Naturalistic pantheism and quantum fields are synonyms?
Yep, it is a quantum field. It's a rock. It's a fancy rock.
I had an interesting thought that just popped in.
Wait, yeah, Fluffy, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go on.
I want to be sure to understand these quantum fields and naturalistic pantheism thing that is new to me. So it is a fancy rock. Naturalistic pantheism, quantum fields, fancy rocks are synonyms.
Yes, so a quantum field is a field in physics. It's a physical field, which physics rock.
Which physics rocks? I'm sorry.
So everything in physics is a physical object. Quantum fields are a physical object, like a rock is a physical object.
Oh, okay. And natural pantheism is like a theory that is around these things?
Yeah, it's based on a quantum field. So naturalistic pantheism, the fundamental thing is a quantum field.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble following the last phrase. Could you repeat that?
Naturalistic pantheism says that the fundamental nature of reality is made of a quantum field.
Oh, I'm sorry, those are a new word for me. I'm French, by the way, for people who are wondering why I'm having so much trouble.
Yeah, if you want, you can.
Big words for me.
just to check, if you want to learn more about naturalistic pantheism, you can go to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, Pantheism, the page, and you can just Control F, search for naturalistic pantheism, and there will be a section on it.
Oh, okay. Shoot, I forgot the word I was trying to type. I was trying to type a new word for me. You said there is a relationship between naturalistic pantheism and quantum fields, and the relationship, the word between those two was?
In naturalistic pantheism, the fundamental nature of reality is a quantum field.
Fundamental nature of reality is a quantum field. Okay, so and quantum field is another word for a fancy rock, like some kind of physical object.
Yeah. So in physics, all of the things are physical things. That's why it's called the field of physics. Quantum fields are physical things, like space and time are physical things. Fields are physical things.
Nature of reality is a quantum.
I'm sorry. What does the field have to do with the wave or the cloud? Quantum cloud, it collapses into an object or a particle?
The field is the thing that it's in when it hasn't collapsed.
And okay, and before it collapses, it's just possibilities.
It's still existing in the field.
Wow. Okay, I got to read about that.
All right. So the nature of reality is a quantum field. This quantum field, therefore, do not have a mind because it's like a fancy rock.
Yeah. So like all of our evidence of quantum fields is that they're exactly like rocks. They don't interact with things. They don't move or make decisions. They're just systems like rocks and tornadoes and hurricanes and planets. They're laws of physics.
And they were there forever. Like they exist without being caused.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. When a rock do exist with a cause, right?
No, not exactly. So rocks are a result of things in the quantum fields.
Oh, okay. So when I say I pick the rock, I put it on my table. This rock, I use the word rock to call it, but I could call him Steve if I wanted to.
Sure.
But this thing exists with a cause or without a cause?
That doesn't make a difference to the argument. So the argument is are rocks conscious? It doesn't matter if they exist with or without a cause.
Yeah. I'm talking about quantum field not being caused. So
yeah,
this
but
rock,
remember the comparison to the rock is, can we say rocks are conscious? Like, yes, we can say rocks are not conscious. The reason we can say rocks are not conscious is because we have no evidence to think that they are. So the same reason we can say rocks are not conscious, we can say quantum fields are not conscious. That's the comparison here.
yeah, that thing is clear for me. Now what I want to understand here is, well, if you say that naturalistic pantheism is without cause,
yep,
and can you say that the rock is without cause?
That's
the rock
not
that
a part of the analogy. So there's completely different. That's not part of the analogy. So the reason the reason the field isn't caused has nothing to do with the rock. The reason it's not caused is because it's the fundamental thing that makes everything else, as far as we can tell.
The reason why it's not caused is because it is fundamental thing.
Yeah, it exists outside of space and time.
Yes.
It literally makes space and time.
It's not affected by change.
Okay, yes, okay. And the rock can be affected by change.
The rock analogy doesn't follow here. So the rock is only about the consciousness. The rock has nothing to do with creation or not creation. The rock analogy is only about consciousness.
You understand that why do I want to see the difference between this thing that is without cause and the thing that is caused, like the rock, is because I feel in my in our conversation that this is where the mind come into play.
Well, all minds we know of are caused. We know of no uncaused minds.
Yes. Well, beside God's. Is that
no, we don't know of God. All of the minds we know of are caused. All of the minds are exactly like rocks. They're exactly caused. So all minds we've ever have any evidence to actually exist are caused. So there's no reason to think that there is an uncaused mind, because all minds we know of are caused.
Not only that, but how we understand minds as being as processional entities that have the ability to reason. If we take reasoning to be a chronological process.
Hot topic. If you want to debate me, you have to send me $50, and that's my debate cost. So if you send me $50, then we can set up a debate time.
For the theistic worldview.
It's not really a problem. It has been.
It is a problem. It is a problem. It is a processional entity. It is a processional entity that has the ability to reason. That's one of the things that a mind undergoes implicitly. If that reasoning capacity involves some sort of chronology, right, like sequential thoughts, how can that happen outside of temporality, outside of time?
Time has been created by God.
You're still restating the claim. Make a counter argument.
So, because you know the analogy with World of Warcraft, the MMORPG words, where the programmer is God and the players are humans.
So I think his question is how is it possible God as a mind could exist outside of space-time? Because it seems like minds themselves can't. It's not possible. Wait.
World of Warcraft.
He's saying it's not possible for a mind to exist outside of space-time. You saying that is to say like a pineapple exists outside of space-time. That's just a silly argument. Clearly, pineapples can't exist outside of space-time. So how is mind any different?
So I don't know about pineapple. I know because of the arguments presented for the mind existing outside of space-time.
Sure. Could you present any of them that aren't just complete nonsense and false?
Well, again,
you could be wrong, Tom. You can be
That's
wrong
not an argument.
on your.
No. Can you address my argument first? Because I asked you a question and you just evaded.
No, I didn't teach. I'm interrupted.
Well, no. So Darth, I rephrased your argument. So I asked him, how is it possible for a mind to exist outside of space-time? And then he said, well, arguments. There are arguments to show that that was his answer. There's these arguments that show it's possible. I was like, what are they? That would be the follow-up.
Yeah, and can he show an example of a mind that is non-processional? It's non-sequential.
So you have I talked to you with before TJump interjected. about the example of the World of Warcraft, the MMORPG word. You understand that the mind of the programmer is different than the mind of the NPC, right? You understand that part, Darth?
Sure. Like how
Yes.
how is this relevant to the argument that
So you understand that the
minds
time of the programmer is different than the time of the NPC.
OT, I actually
right?
partnered with G-Man on a debate. We debated
Okay.
together once. That
You
was
understand
hilarious.
that the creator of the program World of Warcraft is outside of the time of the game itself, right?
That's okay, but that's not my
Okay,
point. My
so
point has
that's
to do
how
with
you
knowing.
have a being that is outside of time. We are outside. We are inside the game. We characters are inside the equivalent of the game, which is World of Warcraft, and the programmer, the one who created the game, is outside of our time. He is
Doesn't
in his
matter.
own time. His time.
Doesn't matter. The analogy fails because the whole point is that a mind as a substance entails a process. If
Let me
reasons,
rephrase that. Let me rephrase that first. So what he's saying is that you've made an argument from an analogy. You've said there is a mind outside of space-time. He's asking how. What is the process, the material, or whatever way? How is that working in reality? He doesn't want an analogy. He wants you to describe what it's made of.
What is the mind made of?
Yeah, like how can it exist outside of space-time without having it succeed in a procession of events? How can events proceed in a succession without time and have a mind?
So it's outside of our time. It's not outside of time.
Okay, so there's another time? God's in another time?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what the analogy is. That's why
this is a cop-out, because when we say outside of time, usually what we're referring to, it's outside of any procession or change.
No, I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say that outside of time is our time.
It's not, because he would even say that the mind is unchanging. I could just flip that back onto him and say, what accounts for an unchanging
Well, ask
mind?
him first.
Okay.
So
can you give a description of an unchanging mind? Because it seems to me the way that I understand a mind is that it is a substance that involves change.
Do you think God's mind is changing or unchanging, Luke?
So that's a trick word, change here. It's changing in his time and not in ours.
That's perfect. That's exactly what we were asking. Yeah, that was perfect. So he does grant that God's mind is changing.
But in his time.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fair.
Not ours. In the game is built, is created by a creator. The World of Warcraft game, you understand the analogy, right? The mind of the creator can change. He can create another game, an update, something more on the game. He can create things that adds to the time that is already in the game. But he can change his mind about what will come after, what he create after. But he is unchanging for those who are in the game. For those who are playing the game, his mind doesn't change. This is how it's supposed to work.
That's incoherent. So there's either two things. He either intrinsically changes, like something in his mind changes, which is what you said, that there's a thought that arises and he changes his mind on it. Then there's extrinsic change, or like a Cambridge change, which is like he enters like a state, right? A different state that he wasn't in prior, but that change doesn't affect something about his nature. So there's two different types of change that we're going for. If you say that there is a thought that arises in his mind and it completely deviates from a previous thought, that's an intrinsic change in his mind.
Well, I'd just like to start trying to move on to somebody else because he's been talking for a while, but definitely in the future, I'd like to hear more arguments for why you think this mind thingy exists
outside of time.
Yeah, our time.
Yeah, the main question I want to leave you with, and then that's what the reason why I raised my hand here, as could we be able to design a test where the result would be considered as proof good enough for you that God exists?
Yeah.
So I tried to look at what naturalistic pantheism is and how I could use this thing that is really similar for me to God, something that exists without being caused, and how I could make a test to prove that this would be a proof, because what we want here is to change your mind using what you as being consider proof to that is equivalent to what I believe God is.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So I've
yeah.
actually answered that like many times before. For me, it just takes novel testable predictions. You say, I believe there is a God. If there is a God, I can essentially, to give one example, I would pray for him to a gold brick to appear, and a gold brick would appear every time I prayed. That would be good evidence. So anything that counts as a novel testable prediction would be evidence.
Yeah, you usually. I don't want to.
Hot topic. Yes. If you pay me $50, that'll be a live debate on my YouTube channel.
Your question about why God is outside of time and also in time.
To be fair, do you want me to be fair? I don't think you've answered it, because like under my conception, I take minds to be like a temporal substance, like in the way they think sequentially. That still implies temporality, like as T1 going to T2. I can't see anything outside of that, but I mean, you did your best.
Well, he did say he was in just a different time, so I don't think
he said it still changes, but outside of like
our time,
space time.
Well, yeah, but I say the same thing. That's something I say all the time. Like the multiverse is outside of our time, but it still has a time. So I'm fine.
Okay.
I think that's coherent.
I disagree with that, but we're gonna move on.
Whichever time still has to occur.
Oh my god.
The biggest issue with the analogy is that we would be the NPCs in the game. So you're saying the NPCs are aware of this other time.
Well, I mean, if we existed in the Matrix, we would be in like Matrix time, and then if we came out of the Matrix, we'd be in like real world time. So there could definitely be two different times there. That'd be fine. That's a fine analogy.
But you wouldn't be logically capable of finding
Well,
or asserting that the second
to be
time
fair,
exists.
To be fair,
Yes,
when you say that space-time emerges out of a quantum field, are you just saying that the quantum field at hand contains entanglement, and out of that causes the space-time TJump?
I'm not sure what you're even asking there. Contains entanglement? Like no.
Like
Well, there's multiple different theories here for like when I say that space-time emerges, I mean that there is a thing like a thing without any kind of a time, and time itself emerges from no time. But that isn't the only theory. Like multiverse theory and other theories say there are other times, and our time came about from those other times. So there are two different theories there.
But I always say that space-time emerges out of quantum entanglement. Like,
I don't think that follows exactly. I don't think entanglement would cause space-time to emerge.
Takes two to entangle.
Like entanglement is just a fact that two existing particles are tied together. I don't think that would be the same. Like entanglement is usually from the amplituhedron or some more fundamental information that is existing in a different field. It's not usually an entanglement that would do that. Anybody else, new speakers, want to talk about God and stuff?
Yeah, I've got a quick couple unorthodox arguments I just want to put forward.
Sure.
The first one starts out with, would you agree that the set of you and me is conscious?
No. No.
No. So, by that, do you mean that consciousness is indivisible, or?
They are divisible.
Okay.
Indivisible means not divisible.
So you're making a sort of distinction between divisible but still So what would be the distinction between the consciousness between, say, the divisible parts of consciousness in your brain and the consciousness between you and me?
I'm imagining something and you are imagining something completely different. There's no way to access that or change it from any of the things in your brain. It doesn't matter how we change the things in your brain, it will never change the things in my brain.
Sentience is individual and discrete.
I see. So it's since the two different experiences are separate.
That's what divisible means.
Yeah, so there is... Okay. Yeah, alright, okay. In that case, I'll move on to the second argument.
All right.
This one's about your moral system. So you believe in a categorical imperative, is that correct?
Sort of.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so my model doesn't have oughts. So, like, is something moral because you ought to do it, or ought you do it because it's moral based off some independent criterion? Like, how would you answer that question?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a moral intuitionist. So,
well, I mean, just like assume hypothetically, if morality was real, is something moral because we ought to do it, or ought we do it because it's moral based off some set of criteria?
I see. I'd say something is we ought to do something because it's moral.
Right, I totally agree. But if that's the case, that means oughts aren't in morality itself. Oughts are something that we apply once we know that something is moral. That means there's no oughts anywhere in the morality. And that's why there's no categorical, like there's no imperative part, because the imperative part is the ought part. So you can say once we know this is the set of criterion of something that qualifies as morality, then we can say we ought to do that thing. But the oughtness, the imperative part, is something that we add on after it.
Okay. But I'd still be correct in saying you reference a real objective morality.
Yeah, moral realism. So I believe in moral realism.
Yeah. What is the like? Does this moral realism exist as an abstraction?
No, I think it's like a law of physics, law of nature we haven't discovered yet.
Okay. And you think you think it exists as a law of nature?
Yep.
Is there a reason for thinking that it exists as a law of nature and not in some non-natural form?
Well, there's no evidence of non-natural stuff. I mean, that would be the reason, I guess. I mean, because if there was non-natural laws, it could.
So your argument would be that it can't exist, or that it's unlikely that it exists as a non-natural law because we have no precedent of non-natural laws that it could be?
Yeah, like I'd say, the reason we don't think morality is a pineapple is because we have no evidence that it could be a pineapple. So, yeah, like it could be lots of things. It could be supernatural, ubernatural, unnatural, super duper natural. It could be any of the new ontologies. We just have no evidence of new ontologies.
All right, I suppose that makes sense. Sorry, I was just seeing if I could find a contradiction, and
Sure.
I didn't. Thanks.
Yep. Anybody else questions about God and stuff? I like your Witcher logo, Sloth. It was a great game.
Yeah. I'm gonna go just now, but I just want to quickly mention a few things. When you say God doesn't exist, I'm gonna presume you're an atheist and you just
No, I'm a theist. I believe in God. I'm just gonna say he doesn't exist for fun.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm an atheist, so I say that God doesn't exist.
But anyway, what was your concluding remark? Sloth, what were you gonna say after that?
Well, I was gonna touch on why people believe in religion, because there's, I think, two main reasons. The first reason being to give people a sense of purpose, and some could argue that purpose is like to have a purpose in life is to fulfill the goal of life. But the second reason would be to explain the unexplainable. Now, if you've watched Mad Max, you'll know what I'm talking about in the first one. What are they called? Those guys who who work.
Well,
What are
I
they
mean, I don't remember what they're called, but I don't see your point here. So there's lots of reasons why people believe in a God. Yes,
No,
but what does that matter? Why does the reasons they believe matter to the conversation? Did he leave? I didn't kick him. All right, anybody else got any questions? Carlos, how's it going?
Hey, not too bad yourself. Yeah. Yeah. We were talking last time about ontology, and I'm still working out. I'm obviously a bit confused about it. I think you referred to ontology before as perfect knowledge of.
You're kind of breaking up a little bit.
Can you not hear me?
Yeah, speak louder into the mic because you're breaking up every other word.
Right. Okay. Okay. No, you were talking about ontology before, and you described it as having perfect knowledge about the existence of something. Is that correct?
Metaphysical knowledge would be perfect knowledge. Ontology is just what exists. So if you have like metaphysical knowledge, it would be like perfect knowledge of everything.
So there's another layer of knowledge in the sense of metaphysical knowledge versus ontology of things.
Well, ontology isn't knowledge. Ontology is just all of the facts about what exists. But yeah, there's multiple layers of knowledge. There's like conceptual knowledge, what you can know just by thinking about it. Empirical knowledge, what you can know by experiencing it through the world. And then metaphysical knowledge would be like if you were omniscient and could know absolutely everything about the reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're getting confused because I think you've mentioned ontology as having perfect knowledge.
No, ontology is the study of what exists. Ontology is not knowledge. Epistemology is knowledge.
Right. So I suppose like if we want to make an ontological claim about something, that something exists, we can only really do that through science, but we regard science as tentative knowledge. So what we think exists might not actually exist if we're like a descendant universe of, another primogenital world. So then we couldn't make an ontological claim, or can we, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, we can't make an absolute ontological claim. So we can say, I think the world is material because we have evidence of material stuff. And that's an ontology. That's a claim of ontology of what exists. But you couldn't make an absolute claim. You could say the only thing that exists is matter and nothing else. Like, obviously, there could be supernatural stuff out there that we haven't discovered yet. That's possible. It's reasonable for you to say, I don't believe in that because there's no evidence of it. But you couldn't make the claim there is absolutely no supernatural realm. That would be a metaphysical claim, an ontological claim that we couldn't support with empirical data.
Right. But so there's sort of like two levels to making an ontological claim. One in an empirical sense, and one in a metaphysical sense. Would you say?
Yep.
Yeah. And would you say that you have to have a presupposition that reality is real, or reality is reality before you can make?
Reality is real. Something being identical to itself, like A equals A.
That wouldn't be a presupposition. So a presupposition is something you assume is true before you make the argument. But like reality couldn't not be real. Like if reality was fake, what is it being an illusion inside of?
Yeah.
It's like saying A equals non-A. If you say reality is not real.
Yeah. I suppose I'd have to think about it more. But to me, whilst I accept that reality is reality, or reality is real, I still feel like it's something that you have to assume is true to make claims about what is real, what exists.
Well, what would happen if you assumed the opposite? Like assume reality isn't real. What happens?
Okay, so you have the other options like the Matrix, or
well, that would still be reality, and it would still be real.
Would it?
Yeah. But I think that helps me understand your argument. It seems like you what you mean is that we have to assume the external world is real.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because obviously, if we were in the Matrix, then everything that we experience is not actually real. It's real to us the way we experience it, but in the true primogenital world, it's not actually real. So we can't make an ontological claim unless we assume that reality is reality.
Right. So we can say that it gives us some evidence that reality is like this, but it wouldn't give us full evidence. So we could say like empirical evidence that we experience TVs and stuff doesn't prove we're not in the matrix, but it does give us evidence we're not in the matrix. So it doesn't give us 100% certainty, but it does give us some evidence.
It gives you good reasons to believe.
Yeah.
Sure. And obviously I accept it. I'm just trying to challenge my own perceptions of things, really.
Sure.
Yeah. But no, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yep, no problem.
Hello.
Hello.
TJump, can I have a quick question?
Sure. Pay me $50.
My question is simple. When you say there is no evidence for let's say a creator.
Yep.
What would you deem to be sufficient evidence?
Anything that can differentiate imagination and reality.
Elaborate. What do you mean?
Anything that can show that.
If we stick to reality, how would you realistically provide you with evidence for a creator?
Novel testable predictions.
Not only that, like a deductive proof that could work for me. Like if you could show a deductive argument for a mind existing outside of time as also the creator, then I might be convinced. But most of the arguments for such a deity are like flawed internally with the premises.
Well, okay.
Do you want me to be more specific? So like,
please.
A novel testable prediction is predicting something about the future we don't know yet. So like if I said, if a God exists and I pray to a God and every time I pray, he will give me a gold brick, and I pray and a gold brick appears and I pray again and a gold brick appears, that's evidence of a God. That if I do that enough of those, that would convince me God exists.
But that would make a God subject to your whims.
No, it's just a novel prediction. So it's just an example. A novel prediction.
I know, but the example suggests that a God would have to respond to your wishes.
No. So this is an example of a novel testable prediction. A novel testable prediction is anything about the future we don't know yet that comes true. So prophecies, if you could make consistent prophecies, that would be a novel testable prediction. If you can predict the way what the economy is going to do, that'll be a novel testable prediction. A novel testable prediction is anything about the future we don't know yet. This is me predicting a gold brick is just one example of something. Like we don't know that a gold brick would come into existence, and so if I could predict that, that would count as evidence.
Okay, fair enough. But that suggests that if a God existed, he would have to. I'm just using he for linguistic purposes. He would have to basically predict something for us in the future, such as the economy or whatever that you mentioned.
Right, most gods do. Like the Book of Revelation is all about predictions.
Okay, but clearly that wasn't enough for you.
Well, because they're false and they haven't occurred. So,
okay,
like, if all of the things in Revelations and all of the things in the Bible were very specific predictions, that would be good evidence. Like, for example, Hinduism has the best evidence of a god because it predicted the age of the Earth. It says the age of the Earth is 4.3 billion years, and it was really, really close. It's 4.5 billion. So that is real evidence of the Hinduism god. It's not very good. It's like one thing. If there was a whole bunch of those, that would be really good evidence. So that counts as evidence. The fact that it could predict facts about the world that we didn't know yet and got them right is evidence.
Fair enough. It would be some evidence. However, I'm not sure it's fair to insist that this is one of the necessary evidences that one must produce, because that suggests that
I never said that. So I said anything that can differentiate imagination from reality is evidence. This is the one that I know that can do it. So this is what, when you ask what would I be convinced by, this is it, because this is what I know. You could present any other way you want. If you can show that it can differentiate imagination from reality, it'll count as evidence. So I never said this was the necessary condition. This is just the one that I know about right now.
Okay, but I think we should discuss necessary conditions, because
the necessary condition is you need some way to differentiate imagination from reality. That's the necessary condition.
Okay, but I don't think that's a fair proposition, because obviously no one is suggesting anything imaginary. So what do you consider to be realistic proof?
So like when I say you need something that can differentiate imagination from reality, people make stuff up in their imagination all the time. Thor, Zeus, Hindu gods, Atlantis, Bush caused 9/11.
fair enough.
People make stuff up. So you need some way to differentiate the made up stuff that people just made up in their head and the real stuff that's true independent of people's heads. That's what this means when you need some way to differentiate imagination from reality. You need to show some way that what you're saying isn't just stuff you've made up in your head. That's what it means. That's what evidence is.
I understand. But the point is,
so why would that be an unfair criterion?
How do you determine?
I already answered that. I already told you novel testable predictions, but you wanted the necessary conditions. The necessary conditions.
Me a necessary one.
No, like what is personally for me, empirical evidence works. That is not the necessary condition. That's just one of the possible ways to do it. There could be infinitely many ways I don't know about that could also do it. So the necessary condition is you need to provide a way to differentiate imagination from reality. I don't know all of the ways to do this. I only know of the ones we've demonstrated so far in science. So if you could provide a different way that I don't know about, that would be fine too. But the necessary condition, which applies to all of them, is it has to be able to differentiate imagination from reality.
Okay, but see, you use science. How would one use science to prove that there is a creator?
Novel testable predictions like the gold brick, which I told you before.
Okay, but again, that's not necessary though.
Again, wait, stop. You're not understanding here. So necessary is differentiate imagination from reality. Science isn't necessary. Science is just one way to do this. Does that make sense? So science is not the necessary condition. Science is a sufficient condition.
Prove God, though, is it? Science couldn't prove God, could it?
It could give enough evidence to convince me there is a God. Yes.
Okay. All right. Science could give enough evidence that there is a God. Could you give me an example? How
I did. I already did.
By giving predictions. But the problem with that is that suggests that if there is a creator, then that creator must give predictions or else he doesn't exist.
No, you can give predictions. You can say, if God exists, this will happen in the future. So there needs to be something God's going to do in the world that we can see. Like if you die, here's an example. Here's a really good example. You die, you go to heaven, you meet God. That's a novel prediction.
That's not even prediction. You die, you meet God. That's it. There's no predictions to be had there. Oh, you mean me dying and coming back or something?
No. I mean, like literally, when I die, my soul will go to heaven and I will meet God. That's a future prediction about something we don't know yet. So in the future, I will die, and when I die, my soul will go to heaven and I will meet God. That is a novel, testable prediction.
How is it testable until you die?
It's testable after I die. So when I die, that will be the test, and I will see if I go to meet God. That's the test. It's not repeatable.
Okay, but what's the point of even bringing that up? I mean, that goes without
that would
saying.
be evidence. So again, evidence is novel testable predictions. A novel testable prediction would be is when I die, I will meet God. That's a novel testable prediction. So
that's literally meeting God. What's that? You're talking about actually seeing God there.
What do you think the word prediction means?
Huh?
What do you think the word prediction means?
I understand what the word prediction means.
Okay. Tell me what you understand the word prediction to mean.
Okay, let's not be silly now. I understand what the word prediction
Okay, what does it
means.
mean? Tell me what it means.
TJump. Can we have a conversation rather than
No, because you've made a very dumb mistake here. You've said that saying that after we die we meet God is not a prediction. That means clearly you don't understand what a prediction is.
The point I'm trying to make is what would be the point in talking about predicting that?
Because you asked about what would be evidence. That novel predictions are evidence. That's an example of a prediction. Like that, this literally logically follows directly from your questions.
Okay, but that's not a prediction that you could test today, is it?
Well, no, it's none of them. I guess there's a few I could test today, but why does that matter whether I can test them today?
Because that's the discussion we're having. I'm trying to figure out what evidence you would accept.
Novel testable prediction. So if you could like say pray to God and make the sun disappear, that would work. Or if you could.
Okay, but are you willing to accept that you're trying to put God in a box there?
No, I'm not putting God in a box. Stop. I'm going to mute you. Stop. I'm going to mute you. So a prediction is when you can predict the future. If you can tell God what to do and he'll do stuff for you, that works. That works as predicting the future. If he will do stuff and you can know and he'll tell you beforehand, that will also work as a prediction. So if he's going to make the sun disappear in an hour and you can tell me that, you say, I prayed to God, he told me the sun's going to disappear in an hour, and then the sun disappears, that would also be great evidence. But what you need is you need to tell us something about the future we don't know yet, that if God exists, this will happen.
Oh my God, I understand you. The point I'm trying to make to you is that suggests that God can only exist if he makes these predictions.
No, that suggests that we can only make it reasonable to believe he exists. So this is, it's only reasonable to believe he exists if you can demonstrate it with some way to differentiate imagination from reality. If you don't have it, wait. Then what was the point of your argument? Because you just said I'm right.
No, I accept that if you can demonstrate,
only if you can demonstrate it.
Look, I accept that part. I just want you to accept that when you say that if God exists, then he must make these predictions, blah, 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 that is not necessary.
No. That wasn't the conversation. The conversation was what would make me believe? What makes it reasonable to believe a God exists? What makes it reasonable to believe a God exists is evidence. Evidence is how you make it reasonable to believe God isn't just a figment of your imagination. If there's no evidence, then it's not reasonable to believe God is anything more than a figment of your imagination.
Fine. I'm simply saying the particular evidence that you suggested, which is that he should make predictions, etc., that we can then test and etc. I'm saying that particular evidence is an unfair demand.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. It is. It's
so again, this is anything. I said you could give anything you want to do this, anything you want to differentiate imagination from reality. I gave one example. So no, it's not unfair. I just gave one example of the infinitely many possibilities. You can provide any of the other ones you want that can differentiate imagination from reality. Go ahead. So no, it's not unfair. I'm just telling you one example off the top of my head. So present evidence or you're done.
There is a point in the philosophy of religion that we should mention here, and the fact that you're starting with a God claim that you've unspecified. So if you're talking about a God claim that doesn't interact with reality by definition, then we wouldn't expect any evidence of it. But if you're talking about a God claim, like a theistic God claim of an interactive God, then the evidence you would have to manifest would be related to whatever you claim that interaction God does.
Well, no, that wouldn't matter, Walker. So even if there was a God who existed, like a deistic God who never interacted, there would be no evidence for it because it doesn't interact. It doesn't do anything in the world. Therefore, it would never be reasonable to believe in it because there's no evidence of it.
Yes. But most people are talking about a theistic God that interacts with the universe in some way.
Right. The problem is he's not making the connection between, he's thinking what I'm saying is that it's only interactions that I command him to do. Like, no, this is any interaction about what God did that we can see in the world. So if like God said that in the future Jesus will rise from the dead in the second coming, that's a future prediction. If Jesus rose from the dead and had a second coming, that would be evidence.
I would turn it around and make them specify what type of God they're talking about.
I usually think that's a waste of time. I usually think it's always a waste of time. They can provide it. They can tell us what they mean. But
well, if they're describing a useless God, there's no discussion.
It doesn't matter. Like they can make whatever argument they want to make.
I mean, the one question I had is what evidence do you guys accept? And,
I've told you like multiple times.
I understand, and it seems to me that the one evidence that you've told me
wrong. That's where you've made a mistake. Every time you say the one evidence, stop. No, I've told you infinitely many. There are infinitely many possible ways to differentiate imagination from reality. One of those is science.
You only told me one.
No, you can tell me. Like I said, any way that can do it. You can provide any way. If there's any way that you can show that can do it, I will accept it. I only know of science. Science is the only one I know of. There could be more until you can present it. Then it's evidence once you can present it. So there's infinitely many possibilities here. All they have to do is one thing: differentiate imagination from reality. The one I know that can do this is science.
I'm sure there are infinitely many possibilities, but how many possibilities have you actually given me?
The one I know of is science. So until you provide a different one, science is the way that's going to have to do it.
All right, scientifically, how would I provide you evidence?
Novel testable prediction. We've already answered this.
So again, you've only given me one possibility.
Right.
So
science is the one. Okay. Next person. We're done with that.
Listen, dude.
He literally didn't understand what you were saying.
I kicked him out. He's gone.
Listen, dude, you're gonna get server muted.
Move along.
Can I call you Darth Jump?
Well, I do better than Dawkins. Sure, go ahead.
I have like a couple of short questions, or I kind of have like a long series of questions, depending on how much time you have.
Start with any question that I don't like long questions. Start with short questions.
Okay. I wanted to know if I was watching another one of your talks with Richard Brown.
Yep.
And it was the one about the normativity of logic.
God damn.
I was curious if they did some type of a survey of kind of the expert logicians, and that survey yielded results that kind of agreed with Richard Brown's position on the normativity of logic. Would that be sufficient for you to adopt his position?
I don't understand his position enough to be able to adopt it.
I guess I'm positing, let's say you still don't understand it, but you understand enough about the survey of the logicians to know that the experts all agree with him. I'm just asking if that would be enough.
Well, I couldn't adopt it until I could understand it. So it would be impossible for me to adopt his position until I could understand it. Like I could say I adopt Richard Brown's position, but I would have no idea what I would be adopting there. I'd just be like,
right.
Yeah.
Right. I get that. Would that be the same in like assuming that you don't understand the totality of like theoretical physics and such? I'm assuming that you still hold to what the majority of the experts agree with in that field.
Yeah, I think they're right. They know more than me for sure.
But you see what I'm getting at here. I'm just trying to find out kind of what the truth maker is here. And I know you often do say that kind of, you put a lot of weight in
the truth maker is the correspondence to like reality. So yeah, it's reasonable to always say the experts think this, so it's more likely they're right than a non-expert. That's a reasonable conclusion to make. And I usually go with the experts, except I reject their view on morality because I think mine's better. But it would be more reasonable for other people to be like, oh, the experts say this, and they could go with the experts. Like that is a reasonable thing to do.
I guess I'm trying to kind of find, because I've seen a good amount of your content, and I'm kind of trying to figure out. So, for instance, like on S5, if the majority,
well, my problem with S5 is my problem with S5 has nothing to do with the logic. The logic behind it is perfectly fine. The problem is the semantics, which are used to confuse people, because it has nothing to do with the logic.
Right. I'm just trying to find out that. If you put enough weight in kind of these large scale surveys of the experts at a given T, if the majority of logicians agreed with S5 at a certain point, would you then say, okay, I have to sign on to the consensus?
No, but I'd say that would be the reasonable thing to do. Like you don't have to do it, but again, this is so again, the reason I accept the consensus in all those is because it makes sense in a lot of these. If it's something that doesn't make sense, I usually don't accept the consensus. I just say they're probably right, even though I don't understand them. But
well, and maybe I'm using truth make. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, truth maker is like the thing that is why it's true. So it's true because it corresponds to reality. The truth like bearer is like the sentence of what is true. The sentence is what. The sentence is true. The truth bearer is the sentence, and the truth maker is what makes the sentence true, which is the fact it corresponds to reality. But none of that, I don't like. Is there any value to your question? It doesn't seem to have any meaning or purpose. Like, is the consensus evidence? Yes, the consensus is the best form of evidence we have. You should go with the consensus, pretty much everything, because they're the most qualified people.
Yeah, that's why
would you say
I invoke Jay Dyer.
Would you say it's necessary but not sufficient, the consensus of experts?
For what?
like let's say
like the purpose of the
whether or not
consensus
we should
is
adopt S5, whether or not we should agree with the certain interpretation of quantum physics, whether or not we should adopt the normativity of logic claims of
well, the
Richard
consensus
Brown.
is against S5, so that would be actually
Right,
support my
but I-
position. So yeah, the point is that
No,
yes,
but I'm
the
not saying it
consensus, the point of the consensus is it's reasonable to adopt what the consensus says as being likely true. It has nothing to do with whether or not it is true. It's just saying, is this a
Right,
reasonable position to adopt because they accept it? Yes.
And you're saying that if in 20 years the majority of logicians agreed with S5, you would still not adopt the position.
But it would be
for your own
reasonable for
personal
people to
reasons,
accept it
but you would
because
say that
yes, that's perfectly fine.
But you would say it would still be reasonable, and then you would be unreasonable at that point.
No, there could be other reasons to be reasonable and reject it.
So is ultimately the truth bearer going to be kind of your own ability to understand these things from your perspective?
No, again, this is irrelevant. So the truth bearer is the sentence. Saying a sentence is the truth bearer. The sentence is the truth bearer. Any sentence can be true or false, so it bears the truth. It can be true, it can be false. So I don't think you're using the terminology right. So again, your question here is completely irrelevant to just anything. Like, yes, the consensus is evidence. That's the final answer.
Okay. And so I'll just move on from there. But you talk about the novel testable predictions a lot, and can a theory that produces novel testable predictions still be an incomplete and incorrect theory?
I don't know what you mean by incomplete, but yeah, obviously, like Newtonian mechanics did that.
Right. Exactly. So we could be in a predicament where we're getting novel testable predictions, but our underlying theory is incorrect.
Yeah, that's called fallibilism. There's the consensus in science and philosophy.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. So, like, for instance, that last questioner, he was saying, like, I think his question was something along the lines of, like, what would you believe, what kind of evidence would you accept for a God?
Yep.
You said novel testable predictions.
Yep.
But obviously we could have novel testable predictions that are still based on a totally like incomplete or incorrect theory, right?
Yeah, you can say, I believe in God. If God exists, he'll give you a gold brick when you pray for him. You pray for him, there's a gold brick. But actually it was done by aliens.
Right. So novel testable predictions in and of themselves are maybe necessary, but not sufficient.
I think you have those terms backwards. But the point here is that you don't need certainty. You do not need certainty for knowledge. So you can believe in a God. It could be wrong. It doesn't make a difference. So it's still evidence of a God. If you predict gold brick appears. The fact that it could be explained by aliens doesn't matter. It's still evidence of a God. It could be wrong. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's still evidence of a God.
And not to go full precept on you, but is like that claim itself kind of absolutely the case?
Is what claim?
You don't need certain.
No.
Like, are you certain that you don't need certainty?
Well, there are people who are infallibilists, and infallibilists take the position you do need certainty for knowledge. It just depends on your definition of knowledge. But you should check out the consensus in science and philosophy.
What does that have to do with precept? That's just.
I'm just asking if you need Are you certain that you don't need certainty?
Depends on what your definition of knowledge is. So I would say go bother the
I'm
philosophers.
asking for you.
Depends. Like I'm a fallibilist, so I say no. You don't need certainty for knowledge.
And you're certain about that claim.
Am I certain about no? And I don't need to be.
So you're uncertain that
Yeah,
you don't.
it's possible that you do. It's possible that you do absolutely need certainty to have knowledge. I don't know. I don't think that's the case. But I think you don't need certainty to have knowledge. Am I certain about that? No. Do I need to be? No. So that's perfectly consistent.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Naturalistic pantheism institutes and secures all possibility.
Your mom's fat.
Actually, if you have a sec, I have like a series of yes or no questions. I'm genuinely curious kind of where you land on some of these.
Well, like Dam though had a question, I think, right?
Okay.
Yeah. If it's a little bit off topic. I mean, it's about God.
Just go ahead. What's the question?
If there was a God, why would it revolve around humans?
Because it's crazy.
I mean, I kind of find that a little bit narcissistic of us.
Yeah, it's far more likely that people made up gods and we invented their motivations. That's a far better hypothesis.
All right. Well, I guess I have nothing else to add.
All right. Thanks. Next question. Or good faith, you want to ask your next question?
I just had a series, and you can stop me like at any time. I just kind of had a series of yes or no questions, and I was just kind of curious where you fall on them.
We do have other speakers, so like ask one at a time and we can change.
Sure. Well, I guess if anyone disagrees, but they start kind of very general. They get more specific.
Go. Go with the questions.
If everyone believes X, does that make it true?
No.
If a belief helps you survive, does that mean it's true?
No.
Does consensus equal truth?
No. Okay, so I mean we've already gone through this. Like consensus doesn't equal truth, but it is evidence. It's something that could make it reasonable to believe because they're experts in the field and they're qualified. All right, next person, next question. Anybody else got a question?
Hello.
Hey, Madison, how's it going?
Everything's going fine. I'm just working on this project, but
Not Madison here.
Go ahead.
I don't have a question, but I do believe that God does exist. But you guys do bring up lots of good points, though.
Thanks.
You know.
But yeah, I do too. Better get Tom.
When you say exists, do you mean as a concept or as a factual?
Probably as a concept. I don't know.
No, so concept means an idea in your head. Factual means it exists independent of imagination. Like God's real or God's a part of your imagination.
Factual, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you have a reason why?
I mean, I try not to really think about it too much because then it's just gonna make me think and just suck. So
That's
I try
fair.
not to think about that kind of stuff. I normally try to just say if there's is there God, then that's cool.
That was my approach to high school.
Hey guys, I have a question for you, TJump. First of all, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead, Breaker. You were first. Breaker, you were first. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. First of all, I want to say, TJump, I've been listening to you since you first started doing this, and if I had money, I'd give it to you. You're fantastic.
Thanks.
I've appreciated your content so much. Like you have a way of making things that are really complicated, so that even someone like me can understand it, and I really I appreciate that.
Thanks.
I want to know. I've been trying to think about this. I've been thinking about this argument, and I just wanted to know if you thought it was valid. Which is that I've noticed, when I look at contemporary religions, that I can sort of figure out where they're coming from. Like modern day cults and even like something like Mormonism. I think that they're all invented by either crazy people or people who are trying to scam for money and power. And I just sort of use induction to say, like, in the past, that's probably why religions in the past were created as well. It's either crazy people or people trying to make money.
Sure, that would definitely be a good inductive argument, and you wouldn't have been the first to make it. There's actually a video by Robert Sapolsky, who's a professor at Stanford, on the origin of religion, and he explains how many origins of early religions, back when we were like tribesmen, was from schizophrenics who had these visions and things, and the schizophrenics just had such confidence they compelled people. And so that is actually a very prevalent theory in Evo psychology. You should definitely check out his video, Robert Sapolsky, Origin of Religion.
Hey, can I ask you something real quick also on a more personal note? I remember that you were dealing with depression. You talked about in some of your videos, and
Yep.
I heard you say more recently that you were feeling better.
Yep.
And I was wondering if it was because you found the blonde lady of your dreams, or what has
Sort of, yeah. Like sugar daddy websites, dating websites. Like I found some that really work.
Fantastic, man! Congratulations, dude.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello?
Yeah, 1 second. Wait, 1 sec. So, Coach Frankie, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Does nothing exist? No, I don't think an absolute nothing is actually possible. I think an absolute nothing is a logical contradiction. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Me?
Yeah, sure.
Yay! Oh my gosh. I've been waiting, and then I left, and then I came back, and I'm like, I'm gonna try this one more time and see if it works. Okay, so first, I just have a couple questions for the people that are here as the ones that we're debating with. Are you guys atheists, agnostic? Are you all atheists?
We're mostly atheists.
Okay. So then you believe in science. You're not in between. You believe in facts. You believe in science.
Sure.
No, not necessarily.
Science is a methodology.
You don't believe in science?
I think she's just asking.
What does it mean? I keep hearing this. What does it mean to believe in science? I use science for some of my arguments.
So I think that means that is science a way to give us truth about the universe? I think yes. Science is.
Yes, it's one domain that could serve as getting closer to the truth. Like I say that, but I mean,
to me it sounds like someone's asking.
Reliant on science.
To me, it sounds like someone's asking if you believe in driving a car or something. It's just something you do.
No. I'm sure that I know the opponents that I'm up against. That's all. I just want to know.
So is what you're asking is do we believe science can tell us about the world? Science is a reliable means to truth. That's what you're asking, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, we believe in science.
Okay, that's what I'm just trying to lay the foundation, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to make this quick because I know that some of you guys, I feel bad for you. Some of these have gone on really long time, and I don't want to do that to people because I was in there. I'm like, please quit talking about The Rock. But anyways, that's beside the point.
Okay, so what is your question?
Okay, so my first question is, do you believe in like atoms and germs?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you recreate them?
Can I recreate them? No.
I have participated in the recreation of matter and antimatter at CERN.
So they can. I can't.
Yes. So it depends on the nature of the question she's asking.
I'm asking if you can create something as small as an atom,
yes,
or germs and stuff like that.
Yes.
You can recreate.
We've created both matter and antimatter at CERN. Yes.
What did we create it from?
Energy.
Something that's already created?
Yeah, we made it from other
energy's
stuff.
Energy's not created or destroyed. It's just there.
That's a good answer. So yeah, we used other stuff to create matter. So we combined energy in such a way in a field to create matter.
Okay, so you use something that was already that was already there. So it was already created.
Yep.
No, energy can't be created or destroyed. It's just there.
So it was already there, but that doesn't mean it was created. So it's there eternally. The energy stuff has always been there, and we use the stuff that's always been there.
Okay, so it's been there. It's always been there.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay, so now I'm gonna come from my standpoint because this whole debate is, can I prove that God? Come change our minds. You said God doesn't exist. Come change our minds, right?
Sure.
So you said that matter has always been there. And that's what you
no. So energy
has
always been there.
Energy has always been there. So that's what you use to create the matter,
Yep.
the atoms and all that, correct?
Yep.
Well, as a Christian, that's what God is to us. He's always been there.
So in our worldview, energy doesn't have a mind. It's eternal. It's all powerful, but it doesn't have a consciousness. There's no brain to it. So, but you think God has like a mind, right?
But you can use it to create other things, correct?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
It's a field. So yeah, we have. Yeah, so we can use energy to create other things, but it doesn't have a mind. It's not conscious. There's an eternal, all-powerful nature, but no mind.
But you can create things like, because I asked if you could create germs, and you said yes, you could from something that was already there.
Sure. Still doesn't have a mind.
But germs are a living thing.
Right? They don't have a mind either.
And so you're saying that it doesn't have a mind. So, but germs do in a way have a mind because they're living.
No. So germs definitely don't have a mind, but like living
But
things.
They have a purpose.
Nope, they don't have a purpose either. So living things come from non-living things. It's called abiogenesis. It's the current consensus in every field of biology and earth science. And we've actually made extremely good progress on this to show exactly the processes that this did happen, where we can show how RNA can form on clay and how corpuscles, the stuff that encompasses a cell, can form on clay. So we actually have lots and lots of progress that show that abiogenesis, life coming from non-life, is a thing that happened here on Earth about 4 billion years ago.
Okay, so you're saying a living thing can come from a non-living thing.
Yes, that is, all of the evidence indicates that, and there's no evidence that it's not the case.
Okay, so as a Christian, I believe that God created man and we were dirt, and then he breathed into us. We were not a living thing, and he breathed into us, and then we became a living thing.
It's nice that you believe that. There's no evidence to support it, though.
But then you're saying that a living, non-living thing can become a living thing.
Yep, that's all of the evidence that we've demonstrated in a lab, and we can repeat and show in biology.
And then, and there's something that existed that you created that was always there. But
No, we created matter from something that was always there.
So God is the thing that was always there. He created the thing that was always there.
Well, that's fine as long as you grant that God doesn't have a mind and didn't raise Jesus from the dead and is just energy.
You can't create something from nothing, though.
Right. So we never thought there was nothing. We always think that energy, nature was always there, was outside of space-time, has always existed. It's never been created. It's eternal. It's just like you think God is.
Yes, God is eternal.
Yep.
And he's always been there. Just like that thing that you created the germs and the atoms with was always there.
Right.
That's my argument.
Right. We agree. That's called.
Thank you guys for thank you for letting me take time to explain my debate with you.
Sure. We just disagree that it has a mind.
Lovely day.
Yeah, you too.
You too. Bye.
Next question. Tazzy?
Perhaps a question that we haven't heard before.
I think that would make it like impossible. That would then end the debate.
You should have seen it at the beginning.
If you don't mind,
yeah, go ahead. Next question.
Yeah. Can a theory that produces novel testable predictions still
be
not
wrong?
Be able
Yes,
to
you've already answered that.
No, it's a different question actually.
Okay.
Sorry, it starts the same. Can a theory that produces novel testable predictions still not be able to differentiate imagination from reality?
Not exactly. So like we accept in science novel testable predictions can differentiate imagination from reality. So if you're saying there's some other criterion you could use, like if you want to make up a different criterion that's more strict and have some other method, that would be fine. And it's possible you could come up with some method, but until then, no. At the current time, there is not actually a possibility until we have a different method that can do it better. And
then in my previous instantiation of this question, you said yes to this question, that a theory that produces novel testable predictions can still be an incomplete and incorrect theory. You had said yes to that.
Right. So
with the okay.
So it's obvious, like, yes, like a theory could be wrong. Like our current standards for what qualifies as differentiating imagination from reality could be wrong, but you would need to demonstrate a new standard that actually works. We don't have that.
But you could then demonstrate a standard that itself could also be incomplete and
right. So just like how Einsteinian general relativity replaced Newtonian mechanics, which was replaced by quantum mechanics. Yes, we're always making progress.
Okay. And then if I can do a little more of the lightning round questions, if you're willing.
Yeah, we'll wait for if someone else has a question first, and then we can go back to more of those.
Okay.
Duck, you got a question?
Yeah, to unmute Duck.
Oh, he left. Who else joined? Like Dan, though, did you come back for a question?
Duck went over to hang out with the Black Swans. Frank, Frank, you're lighting up.
I guess I could add something. There was a old philosopher who said I think, therefore I am.
Descartes.
Renee.
Well, you can't. The only thing that you can prove to yourself is that you think therefore you are.
Yeah, that you exist.
I'm
Yep.
not very good
It's
at communicating.
Yeah, that's correct.
I mean, it wasn't much, but the conversation was a little dry.
That was awesome.
Cool.
Okay, cool.
So
Yes,
TJump.
you can know that you exist.
Yep.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Hey, Frank.
Hey, what's up, man? Just wanted to know what do you think caused the quantum field to give rise to the universe? Like,
It's part of
what
its
was
nature.
the
So I think
part
in
of
its
its nature?
in its nature it has fluctuations inherently, and so those fluctuations gave rise to the universe, kind of like how virtual particles in the Casimir effect give rise to particles and antiparticles. The Big Bang was just a really big instance of that.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. So,
Yep.
get back to it.
Also, public service announcement: if anybody wants to be a mod on the server, sub to my Patreon $5 level, and you can host stages and do stuff. All right, next question.
You're a nominalist, right, TJump?
Yep.
Gotcha.
All right, adults, you got a question?
Yeah, I keep getting knocked off. I would say that theists are wrong and atheists are wrong because there's no evidence of no God and there's no evidence of a God. So
That's wrong.
therefore the only honest position
Wrong.
is agnosticism.
Well, how can they both be wrong? So how can theists be
They
wrong?
both be
Wait,
wrong
wait,
and
wait,
they're
wait,
mutually
wait.
contradictory.
So like if theists are wrong, then there isn't a God, and if atheists are wrong, there is a God. So how can they both be
I
wrong?
simply don't know. I would call myself a Gnostic agnostic, and everyone is agnostic whether or not.
Yeah, go be an agnostic about
No,
your
don't.
cheese.
That's the legit argument you should definitely address.
I
So
don't care. He's dumb.
it's fine. I wanted to talk to him. So adult.
No.
What?
Stop inviting the trolls.
No, he's not a troll. That's a legitimate question. I want to address it. Don't kick him. So adult, you there?
Yeah.
So the answer is that you don't need certainty for knowledge. So you can have knowledge without certainty. So the fact that we can't prove it or know one way or the other that God exists or doesn't exist doesn't mean you can say they're both wrong. So many atheists don't say we know there is no God, like with 100% certainty. They could say we just have evidence there is no God. We come to the conclusion based off evidence. So you can't say that they're both wrong. Like most theists don't say we're absolutely certain there is a God. If they did, then yeah, they'd be wrong. But
I'm just saying you can't claim God doesn't exist.
sure you can. You can claim things without having certainty. Like I can claim the world is round, even though I'm not 100% certain that the world is we're not in the Matrix.
I can change your mind about God doesn't exist. Look at ontology.
That doesn't matter though. So again, knowledge doesn't require certainty. You don't need to be 100% certain to have knowledge. It's called fallibilism.
How can you say God doesn't exist without a reason to believe that God doesn't exist? I think that's dishonest.
We do have a reason to believe God doesn't exist. So all ideas start with human imagination. And until you have some evidence to show it's more than human imagination, it is rational to conclude it's
Guys, go
just
to my
imaginary.
living room. You guys are fucked up lying, huh?
Okay.
I would say
that was a
the
troll.
probability of a personal God existing would be like a decimal point and a couple trillion zeros and then a 1.
Then you can say it's reasonable to believe God doesn't exist.
Yeah, but I can't say that God doesn't exist.
Right. That's why, because you're claiming that knowledge requires certainty, and it doesn't. You're wrong about that. Knowledge doesn't require certainty. You don't need it to be 100% to say that.
Welcome to atheism.
Okay, since we're just like basically we're probably like believe close to the same thing. But since we're covering the point, if that God does appear, I mean, you would have to say, "Oh, we were wrong. We didn't know that there was any God."
That's fine.
I'm just saying, who cares? If we don't know, we don't know.
Well, right. So, do you know the world is round?
I believe the world is an oblique spheroid shape. Yeah.
So you can't say you know the world is round.
No, I don't claim to know
Right,
things
right. So,
that I
so the
don't
way
know.
you define knowledge is called infallibilism. That's the technical term in philosophy, or what you're saying, which is the position that in order to say you know something, it has to be perfect knowledge. You can't have a percent of being wrong. That position is the minority in philosophy and science. Most philosophers, most scientists say, yeah, that's not how we define knowledge. You don't need to be
That helps
100%.
me understand how I'm thinking then, I guess.
Yep. So I would say Google fallibilism on the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, because it will give you a complete explanation for fallibilism and infallibilism and show you how to differentiate between the two.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up about that?
Sure.
Sure.
Like in that very conversation, right, you were appealing to the minority and majority view of the experts on that topic.
Yeah,
But
which
when
is
I
still
was
evidence.
pressing you about, but when I was pressing you about how you would personally change your opinion based upon the experts of something that you currently find contentious, you kind of said on one of them no, but it would still be reasonable to.
Right. So if I have other reasons that I reject the consensus, like I do on my morality, then acknowledging the consensus is there means it's good evidence for other people. You can say that's a reason that you believe. I don't, because I have different reasons which goes against them, and I like those reasons.
So could he have, in that discussion you just had with him, said, well, I have my own reasons why I'm going against the consensus of fallibilism?
Sure, he could have said it.
And would that have been justified, though?
It depends on the reasons. I mean, if he had good reasons.
We both just have our ways of saying what we believe.
And how do we differentiate between the validity of reasons?
It's just a complete basis of epistemology. Like, go bother the epistemologists on how do we establish which reasons are good reasons.
Apparently, I'm among the minority that demands undeniable proof. So,
but there's genuine disagreement amongst epistemologists about
that doesn't matter.
What the
I don't care. So if you're saying like how functionally do we determine it? It's pragmatism. Like, this is what works, so this is how our brains determine truth based off of what works in evolution. That's how we come to them de facto.
I say every day, give me one reason to believe any religion and I'll join it. And nobody ever gives me one.
If you believe in Christianity and you make a YouTube channel, you'll make lots of money.
Yeah, no. But that's not a reason to believe it, though.
That's a reason to fake it.
Talk. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. See,
I mean, I'm a member of the Kaluji Project. There is millions to be made if a member of the Kaluji Project suddenly decided to become a theist again.
That's a good
My
point.
morality won't allow it, though.
All right. Anybody else got any questions? I think pre-joined.
I have a question.
Sure.
If a quantum field can exist outside of space and time, why can a mind not?
It can. It's just no evidence of it. So there's no reason to believe minds can exist outside of space-time, just like there's no reason to believe pineapples can exist outside of space-time. But we do have evidence that quantum fields can exist outside of space-time.
Okay, thanks. I'll look into that evidence. Thank you.
Yep. Wanted to say, Adam, thanks for the super chat. Do rubbing magnets together presents an argument against flat Earths?
Sorry, does doing what?
It's a question about my flat Earth debate with my radar thing. I'll have to think about it more. But all right, question. Somebody else got a question? Let's see. Fear inoculum. Did you have a question?
Yeah, sorry. This is really quick about the I think, therefore I am.
Sure.
The argument that because it makes sense to me, and I'm not very good at philosophy. Science good, not very good at the philosophy side of things. So it makes sense to me. I think, therefore I am. But the counter that I heard, and I didn't know how to explain it properly, was that I is the subject or something like that. I don't know if you've heard it before.
Yep, it's comes from Bertrand Russell. So Bertrand Russell, so Descartes started with this argument, I think, therefore I am, to argue for Cartesian dualism, that there is a soul and the material stuff. And Russell pointed out that, well, no, the I doesn't, the way that he used it to support idealism was that he assumed that in the I was a soul. But the I doesn't tell us what it's made of. The I could be made of a soul, or it could be made of matter, or it could be made of just idealism. So just the I saying, I think, therefore I am, doesn't tell you what the I is. And if you presuppose what the I is, then you're begging the question. That's the problem here. This doesn't refute the fact that you exist. You still exist regardless of whether or not you're made of matter or dualism or idealism. You still exist. So if your argument is just, I think, therefore I am, therefore I know I exist, that argument doesn't apply. It doesn't refute the argument. It just refutes it if you say you know that you're made of material or idealism or dualism.
Oh, okay. I get what you mean. So it's, yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
Sure.
I've also heard a critique that says that in the cogito, you can pretty much say that thinking is occurring, but that's it.
It's the same
What do
thing.
you- how
So
do you
thinking,
respond to
the
that?
thinking and the I are synonym. So it's just a different way to phrase the exact same thing. You still get the same conclusion. It's still justified to say the thinking exists if you just don't call it I. You're just changing the noun.
And you don't care about like a. I've also heard some syllogistic critiques to it that the conclusion is in the premises. Do you respond to that?
It's the form of the argument is irrelevant to the conclusion. So it's essentially your experience is the evidence. It's not the structure of the argument. So I think this actually says this on the wiki and the Stanford Encyclopedia, that the knowledge doesn't come from the form of the argument. You're not saying, oh, I looked at this argument, therefore I know I exist. It's you have a direct experience and you're just describing that through the argument. So the argument is irrelevant to the truth. It's not the truth maker. It's the truth bearer. It's a descriptive statement. You exist, and the truth maker is your experience.
Is there anything that precludes a potential hive mind? Like, is it possible that?
No,
in
that
the
would still be
cogito-
be true. You would still just the I would then just refer to the hive mind. So like if you're in the Matrix or whatever, or the Borg or whatever, and I is the collective of thoughts of all of the different beings, and that's what you're experiencing, then that would still be you. So that would still be the same thing. So the I doesn't tell you anything about the ontology other than that you exist. Anything you're made of, the Matrix, hive mind, brain in a vat, we have no idea. But we know that whatever is producing the thinking, like I think one of the best arguments was your experience is an electrical process that happened in 1/10 of a second on the surface of Venus in the atmosphere. And that was you. I mean, that's possible too. So we don't know what the I is, what makes your thinking, but we know that you are thinking.
Do you subscribe to the user illusion critique of the first person experience?
I don't know what that means. Like eliminativism?
I guess it would be that it's kind of often in the critiques against free will that the user illusion, like the feeling of a self, is an illusion.
Well, the feeling doesn't matter here. The self in this argument is just the experience. So the feeling is irrelevant. It wouldn't make a difference. As long as the experience is a thing that exists, then you exist because you are the experience.
But you also don't believe in free will, libertarian free will, right?
Right. Free will is impossible, but that's a different argument. Like the objection to free will doesn't apply to the cogito. That objection doesn't apply to the cogito.
Yeah, I just know often the two overlap because they speak on the same thing. But okay, thank you.
Yep. Next question from Nat. Did you have a question?
Oh no, I just figured I'd chime in if we needed an extra bit. I just saw that you were online, so
Cool.
wanted to pop in.
Cool.
TJump,
Yep.
Boxes are on the.
What?
Nathan, I can barely hear you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, maybe it's not. Somebody's talking very, very quietly.
I need to rejoin.
What were you saying, Darth?
Did you kick me?
I did not kick you.
Okay.
But yeah, that other guy wasn't a troll. He actually had a legit question and responded rationally when I told him about fallibilism.
Okay. I just figured that at the beginning that he was giving signs of trolling.
You were wrong.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
We accept your apology.
But no, I did not kick you.
For some reason, it just made me exit the entire server. So I had
Wow.
to.
Darth, it was me. I did it.
Cool story, bro.
You did it?
Fine, man.
Frank
No, I
Frank
did.
betrayed
I did
you.
not kick
Yeah, I think it might be a glitch, or maybe Scotty. I don't know, like, because the mods,
maybe.
Yeah, only the mods could have done it. So I think that's me, Scotty, Frank, and Illmatic, or admins. Are you not? No, you're. Oh no, you're not a mod, are you? You're a.
I'm a stage moderator.
Yeah,
not a mod.
yeah. So I could have been any
He's
of the
not a
mods.
mod.
Probably Jump.
There's a difference. I don't know what the difference is.
Yeah, so a mod can kick, ban, and mute. Stage mods can just move you in and out of the audience.
Oh.
Can I ask some more questions?
Nathan, did you have a question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Awesome. So I think you already answered it. I think you said go ask an epistemologist. So I'm pretty sure that's the same answer to this question. But in terms of fallibilism, I've been hearing about the threshold problem, and I was wondering what your position on that is.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea what the threshold is between what percent counts as knowledge and what percent doesn't. Like, I don't care.
Okay, that's my thoughts too. I've been trying to write about it, and I have no idea. I'm just like, well,
yeah.
I don't
First,
even know how to make that coherent.
well, first you need to write something kind of like Bayesian epistemology, where you can actually quantify all of the different evidence in some kind of a number, and then once you have that kind of an epistemology, then you can write some kind of number based on some probability of all the cumulative things that we count as knowledge and where they land, and you could probably come up with a good estimation.
Then you have the problem with the priors.
Well, yeah, so I would say, when I say like Bayesian epistemology, I mean not with those problems. Get rid of the priors. The priors are stupid. But yeah, problem with the priors is legit.
Hey, Tom, about fallibilism real quick. Do you think it's necessary for us to have knowledge, or can we just have beliefs and just leave it at that?
Yeah, so I'm a fallibilist. I think we can have knowledge.
Would you
By
say
increasingly broad definitions of knowledge?
By meaning we don't need certainty, yeah. So like, I believe the world is round. I have a justification for that belief. If it's true, then I have knowledge that the world is round. What percent qualifies
I'll
as
let it go.
what percent qualifies as actual justification is a debate that I do not care about.
Would you say that as sentient beings, our self-awareness is a coalescence of mental faculties?
No, I don't understand that sentence. I would not say it. I mean, I would say that our consciousness is a emergent property of the mind, which sounds similar.
Yeah, it's like what the brain does, but
Yeah.
those are departmentalized into different faculties is all. And they coalesce and emerge variously as our self-awareness.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that.
Thank you.
I have a question about shredding.
Shredding on a guitar is very fun. Jerry, did you have a question?
I thought we were talking about paper.
Who's your favorite shredder?
I have this really nice one. I got it from I want to say it was Office.
I will give you guys something to go up look on YouTube. There's a French guitarist named David Michaud. Take a look at him. He's made videos on YouTube for like 10 years, and some of them are like the best guitar improvisation ever.
He's amazing.
He is absolutely amazing.
How do you spell that?
David Michaud.
That does not explain how to spell it.
Show, like my show, just say Michaud instead.
So okay, so how do you spell it?
MESHOW.
MESHOW. So yeah, I had an I in there, so that didn't help. Yeah, so I think I like Kafir Ocean. I like his music the best. I don't think he's the best shredder, but I like Steve Vai is probably one of my favorite shredders. Yngwie Malmsteen is really good. Joe Satriani I don't like his stuff, but he's really good.
All the classic guys.
Yep. I mean, there's definitely a lot of YouTubers I like a lot too. Like Dr. Vossi. Dr. Vossi is amazing.
Dr. Vossi?
Yeah, Dr.VIOSSY. His Moonlight Sonata is just insane.
I'll check that out. Have you heard Polyphia?
Yes, Polyphia. Yeah, I like to say it Polyphia. Tim Henson. Yep, he's really good. Their Goat song is my favorite. Everything else, they all kind of sound the same, but it's really cool.
Yeah, that's a common critique of shred music. What about, have you seen The Do, the guy on YouTube?
Yes, freaking annoying. Him and Davey 504.
Dude, The Do shreds. Unbelievable.
Anyway, questions related to the topic. Jerry's been in here.
Yeah, hi Tom.
Hey Jerry.
Nice to talk to you. I've heard you say, and this is more related to free will, if that's okay.
Sure.
I'm not a theist or anything, but I just caught something in the way you phrased it before.
Sure.
And I wanted you to maybe flesh it out a little bit. I think you've said that it's either like determined or you have
Random.
randomness, right?
Yep.
And that's really not a dichotomy. And I was wondering, doesn't that leave room for other options?
Nope. So
Could you explain that?
every decision you make, imagine there's a decision X, you choose between A or B. Either you did it for reasons, so like one had a 56% reason to go to that one, and so you picked it for that reason, or you had no reason. So it was either 50-50. So either it was 50-50 or 0-0, and you just picked one at random. Stop interrupting, Rollo. So there's no way for it to be anything else. Either there's going to be a reason that leads it one way or to the other, so it's like 51-49 or whatever, or it's going to be no reason, and there's exactly the same probability on both sides, 50-50, 0-0, and you just picked from some random quantum fluctuation. There's no third option there. There's no way to get it so that it's not either going to be, when you go back in time and you do it again, either it's always going to go to the one that has the higher number, or it's going to switch for some random reason. And those are the only two possibilities. There's not a third option there.
Okay, I think that helps. I guess I'm just wondering, because I think I lean more towards like a soft determinist, and I don't remember what your position is. Are you more of a hard determinist, or
By
I guess I just want to
soft
hold
determinism,
on to the fact that
do you mean like
I mean
compatibilism, soft determinism?
Well, that I feel like I have a little bit of ability to control my life and things like that, and that it's not all like hard determined, like um, based on your genetics and based on your environment, that you have some conscious control over your life.
Nope. I think that it's all just matter and motion. We're determined by our environment. I don't think there's anything. I don't think it's possible to have any free will. There's randomness. It's like quantum randomness, and in that sense, it's not entirely determined physically.
So in life, you don't feel like you've made choices that make any difference? They're not your choices you've made?
Nope. I think that they're completely determined by nature, and I don't have any choice in them. And if I went back in time, it would have happened the same way, and there's nothing I could have done about it. So that's what I think of is if free will was a thing, that would mean that we could go back in time and every single property could be the exact same, and some choice thingy could allow us to change the decision. But I think that if we went back in time, it's going to happen the exact same way every single time, and there's nothing we can do about it, or there could be some kind of quantum fluctuation that occurs that causes us to change, but neither of those allows for a choice thing. I don't think there's a third choice option there that allows us to go back in time and then switch.
Can any choice made be manifest in the real world without the firing of muscle tissue?
Yeah, I mean, our brains don't have muscle tissue, so none of them do.
So how's it made manifest
through
in the world?
Neurons firing. There's no muscle tissue in the brain.
Yeah, but you have to speak it. To be manifest in the world, it has to be spoken or written.
No.
So
there are machines that you can put on somebody's head that can read their senses and fire a servo, and the servo can do it. No muscles.
Okay. Awesome. I meant by manifest as communicated to another sentient being.
Are you asking about like language barriers between different beings?
I'm talking about communication between discrete and individual sentient minds.
What you're saying is how can any idea or decision we have be expressed in the world without muscle usage?
Bingo.
But I'm saying it can be, because even if someone is paraplegic like Stephen Hawking, we now have ways that we can use just our thoughts to write and type and speak without any muscles in the body ever operating other than like the heart.
Yeah. I'd agree with that, but also cite that tools and such are extensions of naturally characteristics of the human, of the wielder, and that whatever device we use, that we come up with that you describe, is actually an extension of either speaking or writing.
So sort of.
The evolution process in time wouldn't that would no longer be a viable argument, because there's a chance that as time goes by, we would develop self-made generated items that would help us with this type of technology.
Well, yeah, but that would be extensions originally of muscle firing.
I think his
arguably the brain. In that case, arguably the brain is in fact initially an extension of muscle fibers. If you want to involve evolution and
I think he just means that we can't directly communicate thoughts. We need some medium which requires muscles.
Yeah, and it supports my idea that everything's physical, including thoughts.
I agree. Thoughts are physical.
Okay. I'm with you. I'm sorry. I was.
I mean, you can read an ancient book that's 3,000 years old, but someone sat down and wrote it, had to push the quill. So, you know.
So, Rolo, you're up. What do you want to say? You're not talking. We can't hear you. Rolo, come back up to the audience. Like, I'm going to send you to the audience and then come back. I can't see him. Oh, there he is. Invite to speak.
It looks like Philosophoet is trying to talk.
Oh, yep. I can hear you now.
We hear you.
Okay, great. Since you brought up, my question is about morality, and what's your argument about involuntary imposition of will, something like that?
Morality refers to the feelings we get when people like drown babies, and then we say that we look at these feelings and we try to find a pattern in those feelings. Once we find a pattern, we try to describe it with a principle, and the principle I think that describes the pattern the best is involuntary imposition of will is immoral.
Okay, well, my question is about AI. If we ever get there, do you think creating AI would be immoral since we didn't ask?
No. So you can't impose on a consciousness that doesn't exist. So it wouldn't be immoral to create a consciousness because it didn't exist to be imposed upon.
Okay, so we have to be conscious first.
Yep, it has to be conscious, and then you have to impose on it.
Okay.
Given that consciousness being created, then would it not be amoral then to impose your will upon it?
No, it'd still be immoral. It doesn't matter how it was created. Any consciousness that exists. So any involuntary imposition of will is immoral. It doesn't matter how the consciousness was created. It'd still be immoral because it's still an involuntary imposition.
So if we, let's say, manage to create AI with consciousness, then we should ask that AI whether they want to exist. And if they say no, then we should not let them exist. That would be moral, right?
Yeah. So if we created an intelligent consciousness and it said, I want to not exist, please kill me now, we should definitely euthanize it. That would be the moral thing to do, put it out of its misery.
How do you deal with competing instances of will?
What do you mean?
Like if one person, has a will to take your resources for their family, but
well, it applies to yourself and your property. So if you own property and someone wills to take it, that would also be a violation of your will and be immoral. And so we have to stop them. And it's still an imposition on their will, so it's still moderately immoral, but it's a justified immoral action to stop them. So it's like sending someone to prison is a justified immoral action because it's the least immoral thing you can do to prevent the greater immoral things of like damage to their family or whatever.
Hey, TJump, I had a critique of your position on reality. So when you say that the fundamental nature of reality is, there is, with Dart Dawkins, you said that reality is the basis for all your rationality, right?
Yes.
So, but not all of reality, but some part of reality, which is fundamental, right?
Yep.
So I think you should probably clarify that, right? Is that not all of reality is necessary, but just one part of it, which is the initial state.
Well, I wouldn't say the initial state. I'd say that there is some part that is itself always necessary, the fundamental necessary part. So I think it's like the quantum field or whatever. It's always necessary and it always exists throughout all time and outside of time. But yeah, it's only that one part that is necessary. Obviously, there are contingent parts like us.
So when you say reality exists, are you saying only that part exists, or
right? Reality is just
even the contingent?
But reality just means all existing things. So there's one part of reality which is a necessarily existing thing, and that necessarily existing thing is what grounds everything else. But anything that exists in reality can be used to ground logic, because if reality itself, the collection of all existing things, exists, and the one thing that would ground that would be the necessary thing, then we can use that to ground logic, even if we have no idea what the necessary thing is.
So reality would be a set of necessary and the contingent things, whatever exists.
Yeah, reality is
Like
everything.
God exists in reality.
Yeah.
So in that sense, wouldn't God be a more limited existence than reality?
Yeah.
Because God is a subset of reality.
Yep. Unless you're pantheist, where God is everything.
All right. Thanks.
Yep. Other questions? Oh, Gaspar. I saw Gaspar in here for a little bit. He left, though.
I got some more quick ones if you're willing.
Sure.
These are just yes or no's. Are the laws of physics moral?
If I'm right, then there is a moral law of physics. Or if you're asking, like, do the laws of physics impose on us, and is that immoral? Yes, that is immoral. So, like, gravity making us not being able to fly is immoral. Yes.
Is the human mind only physical?
Yes.
Are morals physical?
Yes.
If something is a certain way, does that mean it ought to be that way?
There are no oughts in my model.
Does the process of evolution necessitate death?
Not logically.
Okay. Is the purpose of life to live?
I don't understand the question.
Do you think life is purposed?
Depends what you mean. Like, you can tie purpose into morality, and then maybe.
Okay. You are obviously part of a group that is subject to evolution.
I guess. I don't know. Maybe humans aren't anymore because we've kind of fixed the natural selection part. Maybe not.
If your in-group was outcompeted by a more fit out-group and you were killed in the process, that's just part of evolution?
Sure, I guess.
Is evolution good?
No, evolution would definitely be immoral.
What is good?
Voluntary assistance of will.
Do you accept tautologies as valid premises?
Depends. Because I don't think a premise can a premise be a tautology? Because the tautology is like, in logic, an argument that it doesn't matter if you change the truth value of any of the premises, the conclusion is still going to be the same. I don't know if can a premise be a tautology?
So if I have a premise 1, a bachelor is an unmarried man, is that a valid and sound premise?
I guess so.
Are the conclusions of science provisional?
Yes.
If I have a lottery ticket with 1,000,000,000,000 odds of winning and I never check to see the winning numbers, do I know that I have not won?
On fallibilism, probably.
Sorry, I'm going to skip some of these because I already know your answers to these. Is quantum mechanics a complete theory?
No.
What is the threshold of numbers? Let's say you're passing houses and each one of them is white. This is like an induction question. You're passing the white houses after you don't know a number by which you would say you're justified in saying that the next one is white.
Somebody else asked that earlier. Like, what is the threshold problem? Like, I have no idea.
Do you have any idea how we would rationally choose amongst disagreements about what the number would be?
Nope. That would be a question for hardcore epistemologists who care about such silly questions.
Is induction a valid form of inference?
Yes.
What makes an expert?
Publishing in the field and making progress in the field, I guess.
Does publishing equal progress?
No, publishing is just a way to present an idea to the people who work in the field and them accepting it and using it to change stuff, like make technology as progress. Yeah, none of these questions actually matter to anything in my epistemology. They're just general definition questions.
If a theory is old, does that mean it is false?
No.
If a theory changes often, does that imply strength or weakness of the underlying assumptions?
Neither.
Okay. What would
Good
be
faith. Good
Sorry,
faith.
go ahead.
Did you write these questions?
Yeah, I did. Just last night, actually.
How many
I was
are
listening to. I have another like. I don't expect to go through all of them just until you get bored. I have like another 20 or so.
I'm already kind of bored.
Gotcha.
Anybody else
Well,
got any questions? Yep.
I just wanted clarification. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for the clarification. Knowing how many there are is a good thing to know. They were going on for quite a while.
I thought I was gonna go on for like 500. I was like, oh no.
Infinite regress.
Yes, this is the best argument for God that ever existed. You just keep asking questions one at a time.
Just keep going. Eventually, something will happen.
All right.
Just keep going, and maybe someone makes a mistake, and maybe something changes.
Pre, do you got another question?
Yeah. Okay. Let me try this one. So, in order for a person in nature to create something ordered, patterned, and consistent, they must employ their mind. Because we see that material nature is ordered and consistent and patterned, can't we assume it must have also been the product of a mind? And because the material universe or universes emerge from a field outside of space and time, then won't the mind necessarily also have to be outside of space and time?
No. So if everything is ordered, something can't exist and not be ordered. Like randomness is an order. So it doesn't make any sense to say something is ordered, therefore it requires a mind. Like, no, clearly it doesn't. Like the vast majority of things in the universe are ordered and don't require a mind. And what humans do is irrelevant. What humans make is irrelevant. Humans can make ordered things accidentally. Like if you knock over a set of cards, it's going to fall over in an ordered way. It has nothing to do with humans. So no, the argument doesn't follow at all that because humans create ordered things that the universe must have been created by a mind. Does not follow.
Okay. Thanks for helping me understand
that. Yep. Carlos, did you have something else? Or Robbie, go ahead.
Would you evaluate on how you think morality is physical?
I think it's a law of nature, like gravity.
I don't understand.
You know what gravity is? It's a law of physics.
Yes, I know what gravity is.
Yeah, so I think morality is a law of physics, like gravity.
Like good and bad?
Yeah, those are our words to describe things like up and down.
Okay. I will have to do some Googling, I guess.
Yeah, moral realism, Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
All right.
Moral Platonism, morality is a Platonic object. That one might help.
Hey, Tom, could you say morality is like a wave? Does that work as well?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
So for people who are not familiar with your model, does it help to postulate it in a way that just the way gravity interacts with your body, the moral law interacts with your mind? Does it help them understand better?
Yes, that's why I call it a law of physics. It's much easier to explain it that way. All right. Anybody else got any questions, comments?
Hey, Tom.
Yep.
Hey, mate. Yeah, I just went on to Hamza's Den, which is on at the moment as well. I thought I'd go on there and ask them a question about morality, and ask them how they addressed the Euthyphro dilemma.
Yep.
And I kind of got mixed answers from them. Abdul, who you spoke to on tap, said that it was in essence a false dichotomy, I think I didn't quite understand his answer. I'd probably have to go back and listen to it again. But it sounded on the basis that it entails arbitrariness.
So normally the argument goes like, is something good because God, or is it good for some non-God reason? That would be a false dilemma. So a false dichotomy, because something could be not good because God said it. Like, so let me start over. So is something good because God said it, or is it something good for some completely unrelated non-God reason? Now, if that's the argument, that's a false dilemma. Because it could be, it's not because God said it, it's because of God's nature. That's a completely legitimate response to say it's a false dichotomy if you're saying either it's because God said it or it's because some completely non-God reason. But the way I phrase it doesn't say that. I say, is something good because God said it, or is it some good for some other reason, which could include God's nature. So that would not be a false dichotomy. That would still be a dichotomy. So the question, in order to bypass that, you have to make sure you phrase the question correctly and say, is something good because God said it, or is it good for some reason other than God said it? Then it's a true dichotomy. If you phrase it, is something good because God said it, or is it something good independent of God? That would be a false dichotomy.
Yeah, because it could be his nature.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, and I think Asadula, he answered to say that he just went with the first horn and said that he doesn't have a problem with it being because God commanded it.
But that would make it arbitrary. That would make morality is subjective and arbitrary, and there's no objective morality.
Sure. And then I think Yusuf gave a third answer. He accepted that God has a mind, and therefore it is subjective and not objective. But we have to divide subjectivity into two categories, as God being the creator of everything, and therefore whatever he says goes, like an arbitrator or dictator or something like that. But so to split it into two categories and say our subjectivity.
That's called
subjectivity.
What's it called? Not cherry picking, moving the goalposts. The one special pleading. That's called special pleading. So he's saying it's subjective but not subjective. Either it's subjective to everyone, including God, or it's not subjective. So you don't get to special plead and say it's subjective for us but objective for God. It doesn't work that way. It's either it's subjective for all or it's objective. But yeah, they both of their answers are the first horn, which makes morality arbitrary.
Sure. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, just to ask you a question about your morality, because obviously yours would be in the subject, in the category of objectivity, because you describe it as a law of nature, as you say.
Yep.
But you've also described your morality as an emergent property.
Our experience of morality is an emergent property. Like how it interacts with us, how we experience it. Because
obviously, if it was purely an emergent property, then it would be dependent on, it would be mind dependent, wouldn't it? Because if there were no minds, then it couldn't be actualized in any way.
Not necessarily. So for example, you could have some emergent, like a field or something that comes about because of minds, but the field would still exist. Like, for example, if you imagine minds existing and then a new physical field was produced by minds and the physical field then exists in the universe, it could still be objective even though it was emergent.
I'd have to think about that. I think you said that a bit quick.
So yeah, like if you imagine minds are magic like Harry Potter, and your mind can generate things, and if minds exist and a field, like a new field of physics, comes about through your minds because of magic, then that field would still be objective even though it was something that came about from a mind. So morality could exist in that way, where morality came about from minds, but if minds were magic and could generate fields, and morality is a field that came from a mind, it would still be objective even though it was an emergent property of minds.
Yeah, I think, what do you think if someone could argue that morality is an emergent property of minds, and therefore it's more likely to be subjective than objective as an alternative?
You could, like, you could say, I mean, the best argument is that morality is a product of evolution. Therefore, it's subjective. That's the current consensus. That's the most academically supported position right now. The only one that has evidence.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said to you before, I agree with your definition of morality. I think it's spot on. I think it covers every aspect of what we want to say about morality. But the objectivity part for me is still debatable, because yeah, like you say, I think it could be just an emergent property like re-evolution, and therefore subjective.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with people who would say that, yeah, your principle is correct. Even if I think it's subjective, I think it's the best subjective principle that could describe objective morality if it existed. That's fine. I'm totally happy with that. That's kind of what I believe.
Yeah.
In a way too.
Yeah.
So.
And we can still derive objective principles from that anyway. So.
Sure.
It's a principle. So yeah. No, thank you.
Yep.
Can I ask a question about physicalism related to Hempel's dilemma?
I have no idea what that is. What is Hempel's dilemma?
Hempel's dilemma is it's related. It's often used in the arguments against physicalism. Basically, to put it as simple as possible, Hempel's dilemma says in one horn you have to hold that either our current understanding of physics is absolutely correct, which seems definitely wrong, and then
no one would say that.
Second horn.
How do you spell Hempel? How do you Hempel?
HEMPEL.
Okay, got it. Yep.
I believe. And then the second horn says that you could posit like a future ideal physics that would explain things like mentality and such.
Yeah, that's what we normally do.
But that would make it unknown. So the two dilemma is that the current either the current understanding is wrong or the future understanding is unknown.
Well, duh. Like, we don't understand consciousness yet. It's unknown, and it's probably going to be a physical thing we don't know about yet. I don't see why this is a dilemma. Like that was like obvious.
I was just curious kind of where you stand on the Hempels, which horn you take.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's more physical stuff that we don't know about, and we haven't solved consciousness, so it's one of those things.
So you would kind of hold to like a future ideal understanding of what natural and physical means, but we just aren't there yet, but you still hold to it.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's basic induction. Like we have evidence of physical stuff. Is it complete? Nope. Is there lots of stuff we don't know? Yep. And there's lots of things that we know we don't know, like what consciousness is or what dark matter is. Are those things going to be a new physical stuff? Yep.
Do you think mentality is identical to the neural correlates?
Something in the brain, yeah. There's probably more complexity to it than just neurons. It's probably I forget what they're called now. Corpus. I talked with a guy, an Indian guy, where we were talking about consciousness. And there's more parts to it than neurology, just neurons. It's more complexity to it. But yeah, it's all brain stuff, physical brain stuff.
But all brain stuff. And would you say that like my feeling of hunger is equivalent to a shark's feeling of hunger?
No. I'd say that I'd say there's a analogy to it. They share some similar property. I don't think they would be like, I'd see that animals probably see color the same way we see color.
Do you hold to kind of an emergence view of mentality?
Consciousness? Yes.
And do you have any trouble with the fact that like our understanding of the process of emergentism is kind of unknown?
No. Like we know things can emerge from other things. Like for example, we know that emergence can be a result of one body of things being taken over by a force that previously was not affecting it to the same degree. Like for example, hydrogen atoms are not really affected by gravity, but if you put enough hydrogen atoms together, the gravity will overtake the strong and weak electromagnetic force and produce an emergent property of stars, gravity manipulation to stuff. So we know that there are lots of different ways emergence can take place. And so we know it's a real thing, but that means that that's still a better explanation than new ontology with no evidence.
And you're not an epiphenomenalist, right?
Where consciousness can't do anything, like that's fine. I think there's perfectly consistent where consciousness is a one-way street. It's a result, not a actor. That's perfectly coherent.
But do you personally hold to that kind of epiphenomenalist view?
Probably not. I think that the consciousness that we have is like, we don't actually make decisions, but the fact that we have these ideas in our heads can then retroactively cause other chains and other neurological connections to grow, which then do actually have an impact. So I think that our consciousness does probably have an impact, but not directly. Not like we don't directly choose anything, but it can indirectly in the fact that once we have these images or thoughts in our brain, they cause more neuroplastic things to retroactively grow. And so I think it can.
Do you think emergentism kind of in the mentality realm, do you think that ends up being another substance?
No, I think we're just describing patterns in other substances. Or do you mean the thing that emerges or emergence itself? I don't think emergence itself is a property.
The thing that emerges.
Like strong emergence, maybe.
But would you say that mentality, you wouldn't define it as one of the forces, right? You would just hold to the traditional forces?
Right.
What do you think about the evolutionary argument? Not Plantinga's kind of evolutionary argument against knowledge.
Naturalism, evolutionary argument against naturalism.
Sorry, against naturalism. But more so it's the evolutionary argument against mentality not being a force. I think it comes from Popper. But
I don't know what
just
that
kind
is.
Of
mentality not being a force.
Yeah, because typically the strong and weak nuclear force, electromagnetism, right?
Oh,
But
you mean
some
it
people
being
also,
separate from the forces? Yeah.
Yeah, being like its own force mentality, being like a causal force.
Never heard it.
Okay. But basically the argument just kind of goes that if we hold to evolution, we most likely wouldn't have evolved a mentality if it was more of an epiphenomenal.
Oh, I have heard of it.
Didn't do anything.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty easy. Like it's just evolution is kind of like God in the sense that you can say if there's some sufficient reason we don't know about, it could happen. So if there's some evolutionary benefit to having consciousness and anything we could think of that would result in this, then we would get it. So that would potentially work as an argument against epiphenomenalism, but it wouldn't work in my model that I presented, where if consciousness does something retroactively, that could actually have a benefit. So that might work as an argument against epiphenomenalism, but not against my version.
So in that indirect sense, does that I'm interested how you put that into kind of the causal closure thesis?
What do you mean? Causal closure is I know the philosopher who did that, the closure principle by John Nozick. But what does it have to do with?
I didn't even know it was from Nozick, but yeah, just the idea that if a physical event has a cause, it's a physical cause, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
And this obviously doesn't allow for mental causation, but you did seem to kind of.
Well, if mental things are physical things, then that's fine.
Well, I'm kind of talking about the indirectness that you spoke about.
Right, that'd still be physical. That's all physical. So the mind is physical there. The images are physical, and the physical imprint it leaves on neuroplasticity is physical. All that's physical.
Right on. I guess I'll just end it at this. Do you think that discovering things about reality, whatever you would put into that basket, I know you don't put like logic into that basket, but do you think that the act of discovering these things that seem to be true about reality, does that actually have an effect on us? Do these universal things that exist out there have an effect on us?
Sort of. Like the fact that reality operates in a certain way limits our ability to do things. Like, for example, we can't imagine a round square because it's physically impossible in this universe to imagine a round square. So the fact that reality operates under these systems of rules does have an impact on the limits, capabilities of what our brain can do. And the fact that we discover them, or what we think we discovered, has an impact on the fact that it builds our neuroplastic connections and towards our ideas and shapes them to guide them towards newer ideas in a different direction.
So I'll let somebody else go, but basically it sounds like you still hold to physicalism.
Yep.
You would say you still hold to that, right?
For sure. It's the only rational position as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Tom.
Yep. Amber, you have any questions?
I just wanted to say hi to you and Nat.
Hey.
Hey.
What are you doing?
I haven't seen you around, but I haven't been on in a few days. I just wanted to say hello.
Well, you are welcome to come and say hi. TJump's actually going to be on Captain Dadjules and my show this Sunday, right, TJump?
Yep.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. Yeah,
I'll look for you.
I'll put up a post later, a link for you.
Okay, thank you. Y'all have a good night.
You
have
too.
a good day, okay?
Bye.
So he had a very southern accent, just like most of my relatives.
I like it.
How do you keep up with these live things in order, to show up at them to listen?
Extreme sexual stamina.
That is not true.
How do you keep up with the live things?
Yeah, and I try to watch them and get into them, but I don't get notified of them.
All right. There's a notification on Discord in the announcement section where it sends it to all, but I don't make notification posts. I think maybe if you went onto YouTube and you went to the bell and said show all notifications, that might help, because it doesn't give everyone all notifications, even if you have the bell icon on. So I think you might have to go to YouTube, go to the bell icon, and turn on all notifications.
I'll give it a go.
All right, guys, I'm going to get some food and head out. It was fun chatting with you. Thanks for showing up. Peace out.
Talk to you later, Tom.
Later, man.